Hey, yo, do you like films? We like films. We're gonna talk about them. There's 100 of these things we have to get through. This first part will take you through the first 50. Do we like these films? Maybe you should stick around and find out, idiot!
Oh my god. You have to get violent.
So they're being impatient. They're not listening.
Oh, okay.
They're commenting before they watch it. Find out what we think of such movies like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. I swear I saw Back to the Future in there somewhere.
I think you did.
I think right. I did. This is definitely, by the way, being recorded before. Don't worry. Anyways, what are you waiting for? Grab some popcorn and listen to us talk about movies.
Why watch a movie when you can hear about it? Yeah, and the thing is these are all movies that were selected by some poster that was on Reddit. Link to that in the description. I just kind of looked at it, and there were some on there which genuinely are good, and there were some that I was just like, how did this end up on here?
I don't know.
Well, that's fine.
I haven't. You've seen the list.
I have seen the list.
I haven't seen the list. So this is going to be my first time seeing it, okay. And I'm going to be going each entry. Each entry is going to be new to me. I'm not going to know a single thing about each entry. So you've told me ahead of time that some films I'm going to like, some I'm going to really disagree with. So we'll see. And so what made you pick this poster off Reddit specifically? Was it like a big deal? Or?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, months ago, I was just browsing Reddit as you do, and on the movie subreddit, which is typically known for being, quite a I guess, what's the word? Not snobby, but very they have very high standards for what they consider movies. And someone had bought this poster, which has 100 golden squares, and you're supposed to scratch off the squares to reveal the movie poster underneath once you've seen the movie. And it's these are the 100 movies you should watch. And some of them on there, like I said, some of them were very good. You could see them, and some of them, I feel like they were picked just because they were relevant or because they're popular. And I think, you could probably guess what I mean by that.
Yeah, no, of course.
And so, yeah, that's just it, isn't it? So,
Sure. Well, I mean, you've got a presentation, a PowerPoint set up in front of me right here.
Right here, yeah. So you are going to witness this as we scroll through them, okay? Are you ready? So let's get started with movie number 1, which is The Shawshank Redemption.
The Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
I assume. So is this in any? Is it 100 down to 1, or is it just the 100 best movies in no particular order?
No, I don't think there was any. There was no indication on the poster. It was just, here are 100 movies that you should see.
Well, I mean, I don't have too much to say on The Shawshank Redemption. I think it is a really good movie. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. Okay. So what's your take? Because I think Shawshank's really good.
No, I agree. It's probably one of the because it was a Stephen King book, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the few good adaptations of his work.
I want to say that it's one of the ones where both the book and the movie, I think, are both really good. Because there are some where I think the movie's better than the book, and some where the book is better than the movie. And I think this is probably the one where they're both really, really strong.
Yeah, no, of course. I love. There's so many good moments in The Shawshank Redemption, and it's a movie that's still talked about to this day. It's aged really well. And as I said, I did a bit of a cheeky thing with it's one of King's few good film adaptations, but it really is his best film adaptation. I know a lot of people liked it, which I think was decent. It had its issues, particularly the second one. But Shawshank Redemption, yeah, the new ones, obviously, not the old one. The old one's it's kind of stupid, but like the new one's stupid too, and just in a different way. Like the new one's very, I don't know, like Pennywise does a lot of silly stuff in the new one, but they expect you to find it scary when a lot of it comes off funny. And I assume you've seen the dancing scene from. Where he's doing the little
I
dance.
assume that was an outtake. I didn't think that
No,
was...
it's in the movie. It's in the movie. So yeah, I'd say I definitely if it for me is just kind of fine or good, I'd say Shawshank Redemption's excellent. Like, it really is. It's a really good, really fantastic film. Other good adaptations include stuff like The Shining, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also I don't think this is one of the few of his films that isn't like just straight up and outright horror.
No, you're right. You're 100%.
It's a film for the whole family.
Yeah, no. I've got my issues with King as a writer, but I think Shawshank's really, really good, and I know I'd watch any time. I could put this movie on, and it's I don't know if it's one of my favorites. I just think it's a really excellent film. I don't have much more to say on that. Morgan Freeman does really good in this film.
So I've heard.
The Godfather.
The Godfather. It's number 2.
The Godfather's number 2. I know. So you haven't seen The Godfather.
I have not seen The Godfather yet. No, it's on my list to see though.
It is a good movie. It is a really good movie. Both the first and the second one are excellent movies. And fans, fans just, they debate. Like, you'll find them debating to this day which one's better between the first and the second. They're that close in quality. My dad prefers the first. My dad actually is quite cynical. He's like, don't even watch the second, just watch the first. I disagree. I think both the first and the second are both excellent. You don't want to watch the third one because the third one's really bad. But the first two are really good. I absolutely love The Godfather. It's not my favorite mafioso film. I definitely would lean on Goodfellas being a better movie for me personally. But sure. I think. My issues with Godfather, and I assume you know this, is that they are lengthy films.
Not as bad. They're not as long as The Irishman, though.
No, you're right. See, I was gonna use like Goodfellas as like Goodfellas. It's shorter, it's more snappy, it's kind of more to the point.
Goodfellas is still like 2.5 hours, though.
I thought it was around 2.
Or is it 2?
Yeah,
it's still long.
Yeah, it's long. Goodfellas is around 2 hours, but Godfather nearly has like an hour on it.
Yeah, Goodfellas is 2 hours 26 minutes.
Oof.
Yeah, right.
Man, I guess. I mean, to me, the Goodfellas. I don't know. I didn't really feel the length of Goodfellas though. But I guess it's just a better paced film.
Well, that's the thing is, I was having a conversation with some people earlier, and they were saying that like Goodfellas. I think the intention was that Scorsese wanted it to be edited more like a trailer, so that it never like slowed down. It just kept like building speed as it went along. Yeah,
and I assume. Because you've seen The Irishman and I haven't, I assume The Irishman's like not like that at all.
No, The Irishman's a very slow moving film.
A good film.
Yeah, I'd say The Irishman is a good film. I understand why people don't like it, and I easily think you could lose an hour out of that film. But no, I think it's still pretty good.
Sure. No, sure. I still need to see it, but Godfather. Again, don't have much to say. It does. I would say it belongs in the top 100. It's an important film in film history. I'd recommend anyone watch it. Despite its length, it's long. It has some slow moments. I think there's some parts of it that haven't aged well. But the film connoisseurs eat that stuff up, right? Yeah, like exactly. a lot of them don't mind like slower stuff, which is fine. So yeah. Not much more to say. Good film, first and second are both excellent.
Good. So I'm also going to be tallying up whether we think they should be on the list or not. So that's 2 for yes and 0 for no.
Well, we've started off good.
Yeah, exactly.
So far, that's good.
So you ready to see what's next?
Sure.
It's The Dark Knight.
Ooh, Oh, this is an interesting one. A very interesting one. Because I love The Dark Knight. I think it's a really excellent film. Top 100.
Yeah.
That's really, really... Because I'm still trying to think. I'm trying to think if I would say it's excellent in a film. Like, it transcends the medium it's in, which is comic book movie, and becomes excellent film. Or if it's just an excellent comic book film.
So is it? Are you thinking more like is it a Joker, or is it like, you know, where Joker isn't necessarily a good comic book film, but it is a good film?
Yeah, no, I'd say personally, like for me, I would agree with that. Yeah, I think Dark Knight and Joker both lean more on being good movies rather than being good comic book movies, because they're just more... Dark Knight and Joker are more down to earth in their tone. So I think it does kind of transcend being a good comic book movie. I think Dark Knight is excellent. It's interesting if I'd put this in my top 100. I don't even know what would make my top 100 off the top of my head. But Dark Knight really is an excellent film. It's really... It's the best comic book film ever made, in my opinion. I'll say that.
Okay.
And I know you could argue that's a very shallow pool.
I'm not going to comment on that.
It's interesting. I don't know. Like, I really do love this movie. Top 100? I don't know. This one's hard. I'm stuck in the middle on whether I'd say yes or no on this one. I'm undecided. It's top 100.
Can I give an argument as to why it should be in the top 100?
Sure.
Because people, like, you know, we talk about the Marvel films making superheroes accessible. Yeah. I want to say that the trilogy of films that this is from, did that before the Marvel films did. People who don't even watch comic book films saw this film.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And when it's, you know, because let's not forget, Man of Steel was in that same, like, decade.
Yeah, and you can tell Christopher Nolan when he directs, you can tell he tries really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is with the trilogy, though, is I'd only say this is the only one you could put in the top 100. I think the third one's way too silly and stupid, and I think the first one's kind of boring in areas. I'd say this is the only really good one. A lot of it's held up by the fact that Heath Ledger, this was his last role, I think, before he passed away. I know he didn't even see the movie. I know that he didn't even watch the movie, so, which was sad. Yeah. A lot of people will elevate this incarnation of the Joker literally because Heath Ledger died, even though it is an excellent performance. But it's kept in, you know, cinema history as such an important thing, because I'd argue it's more because of his death rather than the performance. But that's just me. Yeah, exactly. It is a fantastic performance. I don't know if I'll say yes on that one. I think I'll say yes on that one.
Okay.
I think I'll have to lean on yes. It is a good movie. It's a really excellent movie. I'd recommend anyone watch it.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you need a backup, I'm going to say yes to it as well. So.
Okay, fair.
Next is Pulp Fiction.
I mean, you know me. I love Pulp Fiction. I think it's a really good movie. I think Tarantino peaked really early, and by that I mean I think Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction are his best two movies.
Yeah.
And okay. I think Reservoir Dogs is actually the better movie over Pulp Fiction.
All right.
Because I think Reservoir Dogs is just more tightly made for what it is. And, you know, you could argue Pulp Fiction is like... A lot of people like to make the argument that people only like it because it's not told in chronological order. Which you can make a strong argument for.
Yeah.
But the dialogue... So one thing... Okay, I think Tarantino's best trait, genuinely, is I think he's really good at writing. I think he's really good at dialogue. And I think, you know, when he just has to show people talking to each other, I think genuinely he's one of the best in the industry at it. I don't know why. He always makes conversations really engaging and snappy. In other aspects, I think Tarantino is overrated. People who say all his films are good, I probably wouldn't agree with that. I'd say some of his films get repetitive because a lot of them just end in the predictable bloodbath thing. But would Pulp Fiction be? I think Pulp Fiction. I think it's too important of a film not to keep in the top 100. I think I'd say yes on this.
Okay. Everything you said, I agree with everything you said. I specifically agree with the one that I think people only think it's as good as it is, or like people elevate it because it's told out of order. Yeah, but even when it's, even if you do take that into account, I still think it's a fantastic film.
So you'd rate this quite highly?
I would, yes.
Okay. Is there any Tarantino films you prefer over Pulp Fiction? What would you say?
Probably Reservoir Dogs, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think Reservoir Dogs is a better movie, which is a shame because it's his first film.
I think you've also said that before in a previous episode as well, where you said that.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I like talking about, I find Tarantino really interesting to talk about because I like a lot of his films, but in terms of the genuinely two films I would consider excellent, they're just great movies, is Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. I think the rest of his films are good. They're they're fun romps, but not what I'd consider. I don't know if I'd consider them excellent or they elevate to classic status like the first two did. His best movie in a long time was his newest one, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it's because it didn't rely on a lot of the tropes that a lot of his older films did. So, that's just me. Sure. Yeah. Fantastic performances by John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson in this one. I think they're both really well cast. I really like Bruce Willis in this too. I keep forgetting he's it's weird. It doesn't seem like something he'd be in, but
he's also not although he's in it for quite a bit. He's more of a reaction person. Watch him react to this situation.
Yeah, no, I do like it. I mean, we might get into spoilers here. And the one thing I never liked about this film is that it shows John Travolta's character's death right on the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
But then the problem with the chronological storytelling is then I have to watch scenes with him in it afterwards. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and he survives or whatever.
Yeah, and it's just all right. It's I don't know. I don't feel like that's, I don't know. Maybe. I'm usually not fond of this telling a story out of order thing. I really don't like it. So, my biggest criticisms with that come from this. Because, I don't know, would you say a lot would be lost from this film if it was told in order?
No, I don't think it would be.
No, because it's an excellent story, so it's not... I don't know, I think the whole out of order thing's just a bit... I mean, people say that's the point, but whatever. Nah, it's a good film, I really like it. Great film.
Sure. You ready for the next one?
Yeah, sure.
Schindler's List.
Yeah, no, it's a good movie. It is. I don't have much to say on Schindler's List. I think it's one of Liam Neeson's best roles. Please tell me I got that right. He plays the main guy, right?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I think it's one of Liam Neeson's best roles. I don't know. It is quite an emotional film. It really, and you know what? It's not very Spielberg-esque for me. Because Spielberg, whenever I watch a Spielberg film, I feel like he's trying to be. A lot of the times, he's trying to be whimsical, isn't he?
Yes.
And Schindler's List really isn't like that. It's dark. It's violent. It's gritty. The whole thing's filmed in black and white, except for the one red dress girl. No, it is a really good movie. I guess it's important enough to make the top 100. It's not a film I've watched often. I've only watched it twice in my entire life. And I first watched it in secondary school, so I've only watched it one more time since then. No, I think it is a good movie, and I think, it covers the subject material well, and it actually shows you a more sympathetic side to, well, maybe not every German was okay with the Holocaust. Maybe a lot of them were against it, and that's what the story's trying to tell you. It tells you the story of, Oskar Schindler, who sympathizes more with the Jewish workforce in Germany. And I think that's a good story to tell, because I think you get both sides of the conflict here. And the ending of this film is actually like a tearjerker, where he says farewell with it, and he reminisces about how many of the Jewish people he could have saved if he had just sold his car to save a few more, or this badge on his coat to save a few more. It's a really good speech at the end. No, I like Schindler's List. It's a good movie. I'd probably keep it on the list.
Yeah. I mean, also, if you want to talk about the talent that's in it as well, you've got Liam Neeson, Ben Kingsley, Ralph Fiennes, Caroline
Ben Kingsley's in this. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, it's such a like all these, it's this great talents in it too. I think it's an all round just good. It's a good. I think it's a film that, not necessarily, even if it wasn't in the top 100, it'd be one that I think people need to watch as well, because it kind of puts into perspective that us versus them mentality isn't always a good way to look at things. The world isn't black and white; it is very grey.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's a good movie. I think it's an important movie. I think people do need to watch this film to understand the moral ambiguity of World War II, because obviously a lot of it is portrayed as good guys versus bad guys, and you could make an argument that World War II is the last war in history where it was good guys versus bad guys in terms of how it was portrayed. But it is kind of a general stating, it's a big statement. Not everyone in the country would have felt that way, and this focuses on one of the people who didn't feel that way.
Exactly, and I know this isn't the time to talk about this, but we both, you and I, did do history as an option in secondary school, and I think I came to the conclusion, at least, that World War II was the last time that kind of like everyone kind of agreed that the side that they were on was kind of oh, we're the right side, they're the bad side. Ever since then, you look at the Vietnam War, the Iraq War, stuff like that. There are people who are like, why is this happening? Why is this a thing? And I think it's when you even take that war where people thought it was very clear cut and say, well, actually it wasn't. It's then okay, so what do we actually know?
No, yeah, exactly. It really reassesses how we look at things, and it's interesting that it came from Hollywood at all, because you'd expect maybe a director from maybe a European country to talk about this more so than in America, but no, it was Hollywood that released this film and said, hey, guess what, not everything was black and white. That being said, I don't know if Schindler's List is the first film that ever tackled that subject, so
yeah, almost certainly not, to be honest, by 1993.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll say this about the 90s in cinema in general, from the short list we've had here. It seems that as a decade, you could make an argument that the 90s was the last time a lot of the output in Hollywood was very genuine with what they put. I'm not saying most, because most of Hollywood is bad. That's just how it is. But I'm talking from the big directors, like Spielberg and all that. It feels like the 90s was the last decade a lot of heart went into a lot of their works, because after the 90s, Spielberg became very, he became very comfortable with what he knew, and he made very safe, films that just got by. Since 1999, what good film has Spielberg made? Even one? I can't think of one that came out since 1999.
Sure.
I
don't think I've seen any Spielberg films post 1999, honestly.
He finished Stanley Kubrick's AI, which was really bad. He did, was it like Super 8 or whatever? Or this Sexy
Super
7?
67. No. Super 8.
Super 8.
He did
Lucky
Lucky 7. He did Lucky 7.
Yeah, something like that. He's not really made any. He did BFG. Whereas, like,
Really?
the original animated BFG is fine. Like,
I think you should probably like specify what he did as a producer and what he did as a director, because some of the stuff his name is on it, but he didn't really have much to do with it.
No, I know BFG. Yeah, you're right. Give me a second. No, yeah, BFG was directed by him. Super 8. Was that directed by him too? No, that was J.J. Abrams. I'm not thinking Super 8. I'm thinking of something else. It was like a Spielberg film where, like, he was trying to capture, like, you know, the whole young kid cast film thing again.
Was it Tintin?
Oh yeah, he did do Tintin, didn't he?
He
Wasn't
did do
Tintin? Tintin was actually, from what I hear, I've not watched it. I heard Tintin's all right.
He did Minority Report as well in 2002.
Oh, never mind then.
Yes. Well, apart from that, it's stuff. War of the Worlds. Remember that was him as well. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. The War Horse, which did review very well. You got to give him that at least.
Yeah, I guess so.
And let's not forget. Come on, you can't forget the American classic of the century, Ready Player One.
Oh no.
Anyway, let's move on before we talk. We give that too much thought. So film number 6, you're gonna love this one, The Lord of the Rings.
Now, yeah, absolutely.
The poster did not specify which film; it just said The Lord of the Rings. So all 3, I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, these days, The Lord of the Rings. The thing is, as a trilogy, and they go into each other so well. So you can't watch these films like standalone. You have to watch them flow into each other in order because they tell one big story. And Lord of the Rings, I will defend. It's one of my favorite. It's definitely top 10 for me. You know, definitely watch it if you can. Anyone who's listening, you know, the theatrical or extended. Because the theatrical cuts of these films are really good, despite what they cut out. Specifically, the theatrical cut of the second one is really good, because the second one actually adds too much stuff that meanders a bit. But the extended cuts of the third one especially is really good.
Okay.
Because they cut out like a whole character's death from the theatrical version, an important character.
Right.
Yeah, they cut out his death in the
Why?
third one. Because like they're like, the movie's too long.
Okay. All right. Cut something else out then.
But the 2000 like in the theatrical version, they're just like, oh, he's, you know, we've defeated him, he's fine, we can ignore him for now. That's just how the theatrical version deals with it. Whereas the extended version gives you like his death scene, which is really good. Lord of the Rings has an excellent cast of actors. Some, like, you know, obviously this was one of, the name's eluding me. Who plays Frodo again?
Elijah Wood.
Oh, Elijah Wood. This was one of his, you know, this was his breakout role, and he's really good. Even though I don't think much of Frodo as a character, but I do like him as Frodo. And the casting in this is perfect. You know, you have Ian McKellen as Gandalf, who's also excellent. You have Christopher Lee as Saruman, who is a Lord of the Rings fan, by the way.
That must have been a dream for him.
Almost, because he actually said if he taught, you know, the original, is it Tolkien who wrote it?
Yeah.
He talked to Tolkien, and when Tolkien said if they ever make a film of it, Christopher Lee can play Gandalf, and then when he would do the casting, they wouldn't let him play Gandalf. because they said, "No, Ian McKellen, we've already got him, but you could be Saruman," and he was sad because he was like, he didn't want to play a bad guy, but he said he'd do it because he loves the books so much. He'd still take the role.
Also, from what I've heard, he's really good in the role as well.
He is. Christopher Lee is a talent. He's so good. Like, even till he unfortunately passed away in 2014, I think it was. Or 2015 when he died, I don't know. He is such a good talent. He was so good even till his old age. Because you see some actors, when they get really old, you feel like, you can see their performance definitely dip down a bit. Famous ones being... the one I think of a lot is Vincent Price. If you've ever seen Edward Scissorhands, Vincent Price in that film, he barely feels like he's even conscious of what's going on. And it's because like he was really old and like ill during the filming of that, and they had to cut a lot of his scenes out. Okay. Because he just couldn't commit to it because of his age. Christopher Lee was doing so good, like at the age he was. And he really is one of my favorite actors. And it's a good cast of actors. I am so passionate about the Lord of the Rings. Length of the films and all. These are lengthy movies if you want to go into them.
Mm-hmm. No, I should mention that I've actually only seen Fellowship of the Ring, and I've been meaning ever since I first met you all those years ago. You've been getting on to me to watch the rest of those films, and I still haven't, so I have to apologise.
I think if we had more time at university, like without us going into lockdown, I think we probably would have done it. Together at some point.
Oh, but we had to fit in our 7th rewatch of Hunter x Hunter.
Foreshadowing of a future podcast.
That's going on the list.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings, fantastic movie, definitely. I will say though, even though you said you've seen Fellowship is my favourite.
Okay.
Of the three. Yeah, it peaked at the first one. It's not that 2 and 3 are bad, they're really not, they're excellent, but the Fellowship has the most wonder and adventure to it, and I think when you're meeting these characters for the first time, Fellowship of the Ring's the only film, without going into spoilers, it's the only film where the entire cast is together before they get separated by the second and third one. So I think it works and it benefits a lot when these guys are all together. And it's excellent films. One of the hallmarks of 2000 cinema, which I am quite critical of, but I will say for me personally, 2000 cinema as a decade is the last time I really would say that Hollywood put out quite a few good modern classics. Because 2010 cinema, there's definitely so little of that. And I'm not talking about we're talking cinema specifically. We're not talking about the indie scene. Because they're always pumping out what they consider, great films come from the indie scene every year. And that's fine. Or stuff that plays at the Toronto Film Festival and stuff like that. That's fine. We're talking specifically Hollywood.
Yes,
and I think
you had to mention that just because you knew I was going to say something.
No, I mean, I'm aware of. I've not watched many indie films myself, but I'm aware that they're not constrained by Hollywood's producers who get involved, right? And yes. I think you can make the same argument for the music industry as well. That a lot of people go into the music industry and they want to tell their vision of a song. But then a lot of execs might get involved and go, true, but if you want to hit more of a casual audience, change this, this, and this. And I feel like the film industry is very, very similar in that regard to the music industry.
I agree.
So, yeah, it's like, I don't know, I just feel that if you had Lord of the Rings made today in cinema, you would not have got as good an adaptation as you did of this, because let me tell you why. They would have gone full CG like they did with The Hobbit. This was the last time orcs were portrayed in makeup and outfits, which looks excellent. There is CG in Lord of the Rings, but it's used in a very good way, I'd argue.
It's for the stuff that you couldn't actually feasibly do.
No, yeah, of course.
Guess. Yeah.
And The Hobbit proves everything wrong, like what a modern day version of Lord of the Rings could have been like, and it would have been like Lord of the Rings. It's not afraid to use its time well to tell the story it wants to tell. I feel like if you made it today, they'd be too scared of boring the audience. So I feel like they'd have to add in a bunch of stuff to make it more exciting and stuff like that, because there's a lot of downtime in Lord of the Rings. And I think it helps it. And I don't know if it fits so well with a modern audience. I don't know if you made this film today, I don't know if you could make it as well as Peter Jackson did back in 2001 through 2003. And I'm going to say this, Peter Jackson, I don't know, I don't think much of what he did after Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings...
Not King Kong?
Not Peter Jackson's King Kong, though. The original King Kong is more, like just from a technical standpoint, is way more impressive than the 2005 one is.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
So, but that's another thing. That's another thing where it's like, I know we've talked about this before, but that's another thing where it's like, just CG everything. Lord of the Rings didn't have CG in everything, and a lot of stuff in it looks excellent. Obviously, there is a lot of CG in it too. I'm not saying there isn't. But, they use a lot of... this was also filmed in New Zealand, and it feels really, real and beautiful. Fantastic film. I'm so passionate about Lord of the Rings. I'd recommend it to anyone.
Okay.
The Hobbit, so not so much.
It's on the list?
It's on the list, 100%. 100%.
Okay, so far I've got 7 films which you're saying yay to.
7 out of 7.
Saying nay to.
7
out of 7. 7 out of... Sorry, not 7. That was film number 6, actually. So you've got 6 out of 6.
6 out of 6.
6 out of 7. I don't know where 7 came from. I'm even looking at 6 right in front of me. I'm old. Anyway, next up, LÉON.
I am so sad to say I haven't seen it.
Same. I've got to say so. I'm going to create a new section called Haven't Seen, so we're not going to provide an opinion on that one, so that's just...
I mean, right. Jean Reno is a good actor, though. I'll admit that. He is really good. He's, the French guy in this. I want to say he's French. His name's Jean Reno, so... and I know it's it's the scene with... I assume you've seen the YouTube clip, the Bring Me Everyone.
Yes.
What do you mean by everyone? Everyone is from this.
Oh, is it? Okay,
yeah, it's Gary Oldman, who's also in this.
He is also in this. And Natalie Portman.
She would have been quite young at this time, wouldn't she?
I assume that she's the child, right?
Yeah. I'm surprised that you... Sorry, was Natalie Portman a big deal before she was... when she was a kid? I'm not too familiar with her work. Enough to have her on a name on the front cover.
True.
I don't know. I'm a bit... Whatever. I haven't seen it. I want to see it. I'm sad because I've seen LÉON being talked about so many times. I'm sad that I'm really sad that I haven't seen it.
I've got to agree with you there.
I have not much to say on it. I like Jean Reno. I know him a lot from the first Mission Impossible movie, which he's really good in. And
well, hold on. You don't know if that's on the list or not, so
I'd be surprised if any of those films made the list, because
me
Mission Impossible is it's a series that we, the fans of Mission Impossible, myself included, but we don't admit that it's masterpiece material. We just like the films.
Alright. Next film. 12 Angry Men. The original 12 Angry Men.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
Not the Sopranos 12 Angry Men.
the one starring James Gandolfini in 1997.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Easy. This is one of the few movies I've given a perfect 10 to, so...
Sure. No arguments here. It's on the list. It is on the list.
It's actually flawless. I can't think of a single issue with this film. Genuinely. Because it knows its runtime. Remember, this came out in 1957. A lot of films back then would go on, lengthwise, would go on for ages. This knew to cut it at 90 minutes.
But I want to say, wasn't it based off of a stage show, though?
Yes, it was, you're right.
So you can't attribute that entirely.
Yeah, true. True. I remember when I first watched this, I was actually so invested. I was sad to see it was like only 90 minutes long.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like super into it. I was like, because I'd never seen 12 Angry Men. I didn't see it until like 2 years ago, when one of our friends showed me it, and I was super into it. And I was like, genuinely, I can't like, I don't have issues with it. It's so like perfectly paced and everything. And a little well-known thing about this film, there's a really good shot near the beginning of the film where they go in to the room and you see the 12 Angry Men, and it's just this one big continuous one shot showing off all the characters. I love like continuous one shots. I think they're super impressive. And like to see that stuff as early as like 1957, like that's impressive.
Yeah,
it's this film hasn't aged a day, in my opinion.
Sure.
Obviously,
but would you say it explodes like 12 sticks of dynamite?
You know what? They kind of do, because they get angry at the end, so I would say so. I remember I was showing one of our friends this movie, and he actually had a main issue with, the main character in this, because the main character's like, he kept, near the beginning of the film, he's like, there's reasonable doubt that it could be, he might not have done it, but he's not providing evidence, and it was driving my friend up a wall. And I was just like, okay, man, if you were in this, you'd just send him to get executed, this kid to get executed, then without, like, hearing, like, his side of the story.
This is why you're not in the jury.
Anyway, no, I have nothing more to say on 12 Angry Men. It's fantastic. Like,
Fine.
Really good film.
So next up is Forrest Gump. Can I say something brave?
Sure.
I don't like this film.
I'm also going to say something brave. I like this film, but I think it's a tad overhyped.
Same. It's
I mean, you flat out don't like it.
Well, I don't.
I'd say I do.
I know what you mean, though. It's overhyped, as in, because it's okay. It's like one of those films where the concept alone is enough to get people excited, but like they don't do enough with that concept for me to go, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a lot of cuts to just nothing happening for a bit. And, like, the one time I think of is, when he's doing the run and he gets all the people following him. And then, like, he just quits, like, partway through. He's like, I'm done with this. Like, it's funny. But I couldn't help but being like, yeah, and? No, it's a good movie. I just don't know if I'd put it in the top 100, that's all.
Okay.
Like, I like Tom Hanks in it.
Tom Hanks is good in everything, though, so what's that saying?
Yeah, true. He's in Private Ryan, right?
He is in Private Ryan.
I'd say Private Ryan's a better movie than this. I know you can't really compare. I don't know if you can't really compare it, but I'd say it is.
I mean, you can compare quality at least.
Yeah. Forrest Gump is one of those films I keep seeing being talked about as one of the greatest of all time, and it's like I remember it's on a very short. I'm not very critical when it comes to the most popular consensus of the greatest films of all time. A lot of the times they're on there for a reason. A lot of the times a lot of people put them, usually, as I said, it's stuff like from the British Film Institute, which I think they have really good opinions. It's stuff from people who know their craft, people who know things about films. I'm not talking about like the modern ones where it's like, oh yeah, this film had this in it. It's one of the greatest of all time. Usually they've seen a lot of films and they know what they're talking about. But Forrest Gump always makes that list, and to that I can't see what it does better than hundreds of other films. I don't know, like, it's a good movie, I'll give it that, but it's not one of my personal favourites.
Sure.
Yeah, I just...
But no, I can't... it's not going... it can't be on this list for me, unfortunately. I don't have a hatred of this film. It just doesn't do anything for me.
Why, if we tie, does that mean it doesn't make the list?
I'll just put a maybe category then.
Okay, well, I'm still going to say no.
I'm saying no, so that's a nay. Okay, next up, you ready?
Sure.
It's Fight Club.
Sure.
Yeah.
I assume
That was yeah. Okay.
It's too. Maybe this is going to sound hypocritical based off what I just said about Forrest Gump, but I think it's too important of a movie not to keep on the list.
Sure.
It's one of the best films I've seen that has, the big reveal at the end, and then you can watch the film again and piece it together yourself. I think, twists that are done for the sake of being the big twist can ruin a film because it can only work once, right?
See our Danganronpa V3 episode.
Yeah. But good twists, you can watch it again and go, I see how that leads into... the first time it would have eluded you, but when you watch it a second time, you're like, oh, that makes sense. And I assume you... Have you seen Fight Club?
Okay, I've seen most of Fight Club.
Okay, but you know the twist. Everyone knows the twist.
Obviously, yeah, everyone knows the twist. It's like, was it Sixth Sense?
Yeah, I think Sixth Sense. I'd argue Sixth Sense suffers a lot more in terms of the aging category than Fight Club does.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the thing is the thing with Fight Club is the rest of the film still holds up. It's not banking on that ending.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Sixth Sense is.
Yeah, it's honestly interesting for me to see Brad Pitt in a film I consider amazing, because I know he's not in a lot of my favourite films, but Fight Club is excellent. Brad Pitt's really good in it.
Also, something with Fight Club as well is I think it's a film that's misunderstood as well. A lot of people like to quote it, but don't necessarily get the message that the film's trying to promote. A lot of people take it at face value when it's actually quite anti what it's saying.
I don't think the poster helps it.
No, I don't think the poster does help, but that's the point.
It is. It is the point. I think films like this just can't exist in cinema today. I feel like if you tried to do a subversive movie like that, pretended to be one thing that came out the other, I feel like a lot of people would have just turned on it. I don't know. I feel like it's one of the last few really good movies that did stuff like that. No, I can't say much on, I love Fight Club to death. It's such a good movie. I can't watch it over and over because of the twist. I would say there is a lack of rewatchability with it, but every time I watch it, I have a good time, and I love piecing together oh yeah, well the twist makes sense now because I've seen this part of the film, and this part explains why the twist happens later. I love stuff like that. And as I said, we talked about in V3, a twist you don't see coming that you can't piece together, it just makes the twist stupid if you ever play it again.
Yep, exactly.
No, not much to say. Good film. Belongs on the list 100%. It's too important of a film to keep off.
Shutter Island is next.
I did not expect this on here, but I will. I will defend Shutter Island 100%. I don't know if it belongs in the top 100, but it is such an excellent movie. Okay, I remember because Inception came out around 2010 too, and DiCaprio was in that too. But Shutter Island is such a better movie than Inception. It's way more interesting, and it's I think it's actually similar to Fight Club in the sense where the twist at the end, where he's crazy. Spoiler. The twist at the end.
You can't say spoiler afterwards.
we'll put a spoiler warning at the beginning of the podcast.
Sure.
The twist at the end that he's crazy. Actually, it's another one of those. Oh, I can watch this again and see why. Some of the character interactions, him and his partner, right? Sometimes when, DiCaprio's character wants to do something, annoying, or something that doesn't fit with what the partner wants to do. Because, at the end, the partner was in with the island, because DiCaprio was crazy. Yeah. You can see the partner, get more frustrated with him starting, multiple times trying to start his cigarette lighter and stuff like that. He's getting frustrated, and at first you're like, oh, it's because he's his partner, that's why he's getting he's angry that they're having a conflict of interest. But it's no, it's because this guy's trying to give DiCaprio's character a chance to be deemed not clinically insane, and he's not getting through to him. And like they're going through. The whole point of this movie is they go through this whole big elaborate song and dance fake investigation, just so DiCaprio can remember that he killed his wife, and he went crazy. Yeah. And then it's just at the end, like, he falls back into, going crazy again. It ends on a very negative note where, I don't know, I think, do they lobotomize him at the end or something?
They do something to him, yeah.
There's hints, actually, at the end that he did remember who it was, and he just chose to get, like, changed because he just didn't want to remember it anymore. But it depends. You can have discussions about that. Or whether he actually did know consciously on the decision he makes at the end to get taken in by the medical staff. No, it's a good movie. Yeah. Top 100's a bit hard. I think, honestly, for me... top 100? I don't know. Because this isn't even, like, in my top 3 Scorsese flicks, so...
Sure.
I don't know if I could put it in my top 100 for that alone.
Okay. I'm gonna say I think I'm also gonna say no as well.
Yeah, as good as the movie is, I can't put it in the top 100.
No, exactly. Good movie, not top 100 worthy. Yeah. Also, first appearance of your boy Mark Ruffalo as well.
Oh, is this his first movie?
I don't know if it's his first movie, but it's his first movie on this list.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I was gonna say he's a bit old and for this to be his first.
Yeah. Anyway, The Usual Suspects.
I'm gonna say I haven't seen it. I'm gonna admit I haven't seen it.
Me neither. I haven't seen this one.
Oh, what can we say about it?
It's got a poster.
They hired Kevin Spacey.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably good in it.
Yeah, Pete Postlethwaite too, as well. We like him. Yeah. Anyway, The Prestige is next.
I haven't seen it.
I'm gonna have to say I didn't see it either. I'm sorry.
But with a cast like that, how could you say no?
It's got they've got Michael Caine and Hugh Jackman.
Like, I actually like Hugh Jackman. I think he just gets cast in a lot of bad things.
Same.
I think he's really talented.
And he's also he also seems like a nice person as well.
From what I hear, he is quite. Scarlett Johansson. I mean, this was 2006, so I guess this was before she got cast in literally everything.
Yes. I like her as an actress.
I like her as an actress as well. I like her as an actress as well. I mean, you could argue there's a reason she got cast for everything. She's really good, but it's just like I just wish I didn't. She's.
Well, it's when you see someone. It's like with Bruce Willis. You've seen them so many times. Yeah. It's just like, oh, you again.
Morgan Freeman again is another example of that.
Yeah,
where he's just in like too much stuff, and it's like you are an actor. I know you want to make money, but you can proof check some of the stuff you choose to go in.
That film a couple of years ago about where the old people robbing the bank.
Yeah, him, Michael Caine,
and I forget who the third one was, but I was like, really?
I watched that on TV and I was like, what the fuck is going on?
I watched that in the cinema as part of a charity event. Even I don't know what happened.
It's a really weird film. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen The Prestige though. After a tragic incident, 2 stage magicians engage in a battle to create the ultimate illusion. That sounds awesome. What the hell?
Yeah, exactly, right?
That sounds amazing.
Do you remember, was it Now You See Me?
Yes, that was Robert De Niro, right?
Yeah.
If you've ever seen the trailers of that, it's so funny, because he just, like, teleports on top of one of the people in it. Like he's lying on his back and Robert De Niro's character's above him. It's really funny.
Anyway.
Yeah, we have to move on.
Moving on. The Lion King, the original, 1994.
If people said The Lion King 1994 belongs on the top 100 list, I'm not going to argue with it because it is one of the most iconic animated films of all time. It's not my favourite Disney film, it's not my favourite animated film, but I can see the argument for why it belongs on there.
Okay.
On that basis, I will give it a thumbs up.
Now, I really like The Lion King as well. It is one of my favourite Disney films. So I'm going to say I think it does belong on here too.
It's too iconic. It's too iconic.
But I also think it was the last time where a huge audience was really invested in a 2D film.
No, yeah, 100%. This is one of the most iconic 2D animated films of all time. No matter what people say about it, no matter if people think it's overrated, which you're valid if you think that is, it did too much for the medium. Like, it elevated animation. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say this. It elevated, like, 2D animation in the West. Like, people took it so much more seriously. Like, people said 2D animation can be a masterpiece. It garnered critical acclaim from everyone. Like, even if you don't like The Lion King, you have to respect what it did for the film industry, or at least animated films. Which is a shame, because, like, come 7 years later, 2D animation in cinema would be dying.
Yeah, pretty much. We haven't seen a 2D animated film in ages.
No, of course. And it's really sad that, like, because Western 2D animation can be so good, especially Disney's. And it's a shame they don't care for it anymore, because Disney, they just do CG now, and now it's just like, okay, so instead of one Pixar, we've essentially just got two.
Yeah.
Like, I think some of their newer films would have really benefited from just looks-wise being 2D. Like, a film like Coco in 2D would have looked amazing.
Yeah,
Not that it doesn't look good, but you could have captured the whole, like, Mexican Death Valley Festival, whatever, thing really well in 2D animation.
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead. I'm not cultured.
Although I think Death Valley's a good name for it too.
Yeah, I think that's where Undertaker comes from.
Always WWE.
You know, it's interesting, not to go off on a bit of a tangent here, but have you ever seen the movie Book of Life?
No, I haven't actually.
Have you heard of the movie Book of Life?
I have not heard of the movie Book of Life.
Okay, well, everyone talks about that film when they bring up Coco, because everyone's like, Coco ripped off Book of Life, because they're both about the Day of the Dead. But, like, narratively, they're completely different. But they both take place on Day of the Dead, and they're both CG. So everyone just assumes...
Oh my god, that was Del Toro, wasn't it, Book of Life?
I want to say
Sorry, I have heard of it.
I want to say so, yeah. I want to say maybe he produced it, maybe not directed.
Okay.
But I love the aesthetic of Book of Life. I like that it's going for like a very wooden, like they look like they're toys aesthetic. It looks really good.
Sure.
But you know what, Lion King, I'd have to put it on the list just because of how iconic it is. There are Disney films I prefer, but I don't know. I think The Lion King's too important to not have on the list. That's just my... And I know I'm saying that for a few of these films, but...
Sure.
I think there's such thing as, like, when everyone simultaneously agrees, critics and audiences alike, that that's a masterpiece of a film, it's hard to argue against it, no matter how much you dislike it, I think. Because, there's stuff that's going to be popular with critics and popular with audiences. But when you get that mesh of both, I think that's really important. And even the snarkiest critics at the time loved this film. So, No, I'd definitely give it the pass. I'd say it belongs on the top 100.
Sure. You ready for the next one?
Sure.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Haven't seen it, but I know the ending's really sad.
Oh.
I love Jack Nicholson as an actor. I think he's really good.
Sure.
This is, from what I hear, it's a very hard film to watch because you're basically watching this guy, going into a mental institute. And I'm not going to spoil it because, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
I'm not going to spoil it, but the decision they have to come to in the end with him is really sad. So, I don't know why I know a lot about movies that I haven't seen, but I just do. The decision they come to at the end with him is really sad. So definitely check this one out if you're looking for kind of a... I don't know, I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know if it is a sad romp, But from what I've heard and from what I've seen of like the ending, it kind of put me in a bit of a sad state. But I don't know, maybe Jack Nicholson's character deserved the fate he got at the end. I don't know. But
speaking of fates that they deserved, Inception.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
No, Inception's. Oh no, I didn't like Inception when it came out. So, like 10 years later, I think this film has aged so horribly. Because the whole thing at the time was that people were super into the fact that, you know, it's like it's in your mind, it's in a dream within a dream. But like now that time has passed, who's still talking about Inception?
It's more like a punchline to jokes at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Visually, it's a really good film.
Mm-hmm.
I think the person who did the visuals for this went on to do Doctor Strange. Don't quote me on that. But and the visuals in Doctor Strange are amazing too. It's one of the few Marvel films I'll compliment visually. But I'll compliment the visuals. They're very creative. But that's it. It's a film, I'd say, honestly, it's style over substance. There's not much about this film I really like. Like, I think it's... Like, I don't even think it's mediocre. Like, I actually just don't like this movie.
Sure.
Like, it frustrates me.
I hate it's one of those films as well where its entire, like, heritage is just, I got it, versus I didn't. It's like, that doesn't make a good film.
No, it really doesn't.
If the whole thing is, do you get it or not? It's like,
But I'd argue also it's just not that complicated of a movie. I'd say maybe if you were, like, maybe when I was younger and I first watched it. But, like, I don't know.
Is it one of those ones where the concept is more complicated than... It's presented as more complicated than it actually is?
Yeah. 100%.
Sure.
It's, you know... There is stuff that's just done it better and more creatively, so I can't really rate this film that highly for me. I don't know, I'm just not a fan of this film, I really don't like it, and I think it's gotten worse with age. I think when it first came out, if you watched it in 2010, that would have been when you would have liked it, but I don't know, I'd find it hard to show anyone this today and they'd still really like it. Because, like, you have to be, like, when this film was making the rounds, it was so big and everyone was talking about it. And it was like, it's like a dream within a dream, you know, it's really big. But, like, now that hype's all died, I don't know, I just feel like there's not much to go on with Inception because the film lacks a lot of substance. At least to me.
Okay. Next up is a film I don't... Sorry, what was that?
I was just going to say, have you seen it?
No, and I haven't had any desire to see it.
Okay, well...
It's one of those, you know, again, it's one of those films where, you know, where I think people just watch it for the concept, and that's it. Like, it's like an Avatar, you know. Oh, I went to see it because everyone saw it, okay?
Yeah.
Tell me anything about Avatar. I can't.
Except the CG. Yeah. The CG was good.
So I think that's the thing with Inception. It's not even like one of those films where it's, you know, oh, so many people have seen it, maybe there's something to it. It's just like, I have no desire to see this at all.
Yeah.
And for a film that's in the top 100 films of all time, for me to just be so apathetic towards it, I think that instantly discounts it from it being on that list.
Yeah.
Even if I end up liking it, I just can't put it on the list because I'm so apathetic towards it.
Okay, yeah, sure, 100%.
Next up is City of God.
Haven't seen it.
This is a film I actually have seen and I do actually quite like. So the idea is it's about a kids in the slums of a city, and basically they just want to do things. One wants to go into more crime and one wants to go and become a photographer, and it's really well shot. And it's not in English, so it is a foreign film. Our first foreign film, actually, I think, on this list. And I do actually really quite like it. But it does suffer a lot from that early 2000s. Like, you just know how the early 2000s is as a whole. in terms of just the way it looks. It is
Yeah.
one of those, but yeah, I'd give it a pass. I'd let it on this list.
Sure. I haven't seen it. I mean, it sounds interesting. It definitely sounds. I don't know. I've never even heard of this film, to be honest.
Mm.
I mean, to see it share a list with films like Inception, though, seems a bit strange, right? Like, clearly this person does have, like, more cultured taste in some regards, but then, like, he picks summer blockbusters and others. It's really inconsistent, you know what I mean?
I assume that the list was probably made by or probably just went to like IMDb, sorted by the top 100 rated, and just put that on a poster.
Oh no, okay.
Because this is a very this is one that it is strange that this is on this list, and I am actually surprised that I've seen this film. But yeah, it is a good film. I would put it on this list.
Sure.
But so yeah, and also there's a scene with a chicken which everyone talks about.
Okay, well, put it on the list because I haven't seen
Put
it.
it on the list. It's on the list. Next, 7.
Told them you need to. Yeah, 7. 7 belongs on the list, I'd say. It's a good movie.
Sure.
Have you seen it?
I have not.
I'd really recommend 7 because I earlier I said it's one of my favourite films. That it's weird that Fight Club was one of my favourite films with Brad Pitt because he's not in a lot of my favourites. I'm not gonna lie, 7's another one of my favourites with Brad Pitt. It's one of Morgan Freeman's best roles, if not his best role. I think was this film.
Okay.
It's just a really interesting movie to watch because they're watching all these murders done based off all the 7 deadly sins.
Mm-hmm.
You really need to. I'm not going to spoil the ending because you really need to see it to, like, do they give away who the villain is in the casting? I don't think they do. But once you meet the main antagonist, there's this long, just car ride where they talk to him, and it's so interesting to hear him explain like why he did the things he did. I don't know. It's really interesting. It's a smart film. I think it's not just like, oh, a cop film. We have to stop the killer, kind of film. It's a really intelligent movie, and like the way they deal with the 7 deadly sins, the way Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman's characters kind of bounce off each other because Brad Pitt's character is very he's a rookie. So he's a lot more hot-tempered compared to Morgan Freeman's, and that shows with how the film ends, which I'm not going to go into. But let's just say Brad Pitt's character makes kind of a bit of a bad decision at the end. That, in a way, the villain of this movie kind of wins because he makes a point, and he kind of the point he made was right. So it's one of those films where you could say the villain actually ended up winning in the end. It's a good movie, no 100%. I'd recommend 7 to anyone. Morgan Freeman's best role to date, in my opinion. Maybe Brad Pitt's. I prefer him in Fight Club, but I would say this is one of his best roles as well. It's weird seeing him get cast in such good films like in the 90s, and then in the 2000s he wasn't cast in as many. Off the top of my head, like excellent movies. And then again, Morgan Freeman ended up just becoming an actor who just picked up any role himself. So
you're saying yes to this film?
I'm saying yes to 7, 100%. Good movie.
Sure. Okay. Next up,
Here we go.
Here we go. Well, when I made this for our family, I was like, how can I annoy my brother? So I put it down as Snore Wars, but it is Star Wars. Now, the thing is, again, on the poster, it just says Star Wars. It doesn't say which one, so I'm just going to assume it's the first one.
So, do you wanna speak on this first, or?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Star Wars is one of those franchises where I've seen so much of it, and I've been exposed to. I've seen like 4 or 5 of the films.
Yeah, 4 or 5 of the
I've
films.
seen a lot of the. I've played a lot of the games. I've watched a lot of the TV shows, and I have come to the conclusion that I don't like the Star Wars universe. So it's just not for me. I don't really get it why so many people do like it. But I have never seen the original trilogy, and I have no desire to at this point, because I think my opinion of the franchise is so tarred by everything that's come post that original trilogy that I think to return to it, I would be too biased into not liking it. So out of respect for that original trilogy, I have not seen it, just because I don't want to go into it and be like, I don't like this, and then have to explain to people on the internet that I don't like Star Wars.
Sure. And I've heard this argument before, many times.
Okay.
And from you. And the original trilogy is something I hold quite dearly. It's a good series of films. I like it a lot. And if it was up to me, it would make the list, but you're gonna thumbs down it probably. So
well, no, okay. I'll just skip to. I will give it a thumbs up, because this film fundamentally changed the face of cinema across the world. Not people like to say, cinema was one thing, then Star Wars changed it in America. I want to say that Star Wars changed the face of cinema in every region it was seen, because it was one of the catalysts for making, cinema is a hobby to cinema as a business. And I think for that alone, that has to be worth something for cultural impact. Whether or not I like those changes or not is another story, but
if it means anything, like, a lot of modern audiences I've seen have watched the original trilogy, and a lot of people don't like what they see. And a lot of people like to use the "it was good for the time but not good for today" kind of thing, which
sure,
I can't personally agree with. I think, like, I love... The reason I love, like, the first two Star Wars films specifically, Return of the Jedi is the weakest one of the original trilogy. It's still good. The reason I love the first two, again, is, like, besides the fact its story's very basic, it's a very simple but effective story. I love so much of this film from a technical standpoint. You remember, there wasn't a lot of CG back then, so a lot of the stuff is done on models, and they look fantastic. A lot of these movies are excellently shot. There's a lot of good wide shots that show stuff like, the ships and stuff like that invoke... The first shot of A New Hope is this long shot of the small ship being chased by the really big one, and it comes in slowly to show the size difference. Like, that's like that. You're not saying anything, and you're already showing through just camera work that, yeah, these guys are the underdogs and these guys are the big guys. And, like, from a technical standpoint, I would argue that Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, just purely technical, one of the best movies I've ever seen. And I know that's not important for a lot of people, but films like this don't really exist anymore in a traditional sense. Obviously, a technical good film now would be something with a high budget and a lot of computer, like, animation. But, like, back then, this stuff was the CGI of its day. Models, excellent, like, editing and camera effects, camera work in these movies. Cinematography-wise, I love these Star Wars movies. Or the original trilogy, rather. I find the characters extremely likable. I don't know, like... It's a trilogy that I hold quite close to my heart. But, and as you said, it is an important series, whether you like it or not. But I'd say, quality-wise, I still think they hold up pretty well today. I'd personally put it in the top 100.
Sure.
That's just my take on that. Though, like, and I know you're not. You have no desire to watch this trilogy.
No.
But maybe you'll get around to one day. You never know.
Maybe one day I will watch it, and then I'll go, oh, man, what a
that was horrible.
Fool I was. That was horrible. Man, I can't believe people like this. So I'm just going to put it in the S category, just because, again, just for its sheer significance, it's got to, really. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. Stop talking. Next, The Matrix.
No.
No.
I like The Matrix. It's just not top 100 movies worthy.
But it's your boy, Ralph's just...
No, I really like The Matrix. I also think it's a really silly, stupid film. Remember, at the time in 1999, people liked The Matrix because they thought it was super intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
But by, today's standards, that's, not the case. It just comes off as really silly.
This is specifically the first one, not the...
I'm talking about the first one.
Oh, yeah, okay. Because I still hear people defend that first one quite a lot.
No, that's the thing. That's why I stated it's a good film. I hate the second and third movie. I think they're horrible. The first one's the only one I consider good. But it's good in a silly way. The action's fantastic. But a lot of the themes it invokes, I'd say they've just aged really badly, that's all. A lot of the story points that it goes for... remember at the time, it left on the question of... Well, the question it gave audiences, what if your life is a lie? What if you are in the Matrix? What if there's this thing you're being lied to about? And I think for 1999, that's an interesting topic. But it doesn't go into depth enough with it to the point, with that kind of subject matter, you need to make a movie that's giving the main character, an existential crisis. And something that'd lead him to be depressed or give him some kind of mental illness, and it to be some kind of slow, dialogue-heavy film. The Matrix is an action rom. The whole questioning reality thing doesn't really fit the whole over-the-top, now that we're done with that, let's fight. If it was a slower film about a character who finds out his life was fake, and he ended up getting depressed over it, and it was a really slow dialogue-heavy film of him having to come to terms with it, I could totally understand why that would be a masterpiece. But I can't understand why The Matrix, in its current form, is a masterpiece, unless you really like solid action films, which it is. It's a solid action film. It's nothing more than a solid action film, is the point I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. It's also one of those films as well where I think a lot of people do also misunderstand. It's like Fight Club. I think a lot of people misunderstand the intention behind it too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people a lot of people take it again at the face value of wake up sheeple, take the red pill versus take the blue pill, And I see a lot of people online go, "Oh, you've taken the red pill, you've waken up," and it's if you know the history behind the film and actually the deeper films behind it, it's not saying that at all. It is very much what if your life is a lie, not necessarily you're being lied to part of the film is not the important part. It's the life being the lie is the important part. Yeah,
I just think that with that knowledge that his life was a lie, I think Keanu Reeves' character gets over it way too quickly.
Your life is entirely fake. Oh, okay.
I mean, obviously you have no choice, right? You have to get over it at some point. But I don't think that's how human beings work. Even push comes to shove, I think they'd have a mental breakdown rather than okay, yeah, I want to become a super cool ninja guy. And there is a part of it where he's probably he is questioning stuff like that, but I don't know, obviously it's a film in Hollywood, I guess, so maybe they don't want to show a guy's mental state deteriorating, but I think with a subject like that you kind of need something like that, because that's getting into some existential crisis level stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a good movie. I'm not gonna take that away. I do enjoy The Matrix. I watched it again very recently, and I do enjoy it. But I agree with my sister watched it for the first time the other day, and I agree with her take on it, where it's it's a good action rom, but its story beats just don't transcend what it's trying. Its story is being held down by the type of movie it wants to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
It's like when you watch most stuff that includes a lot of action is going to be held down story-wise. it's why a lot of video game stories end up suffering, because you have to incorporate stuff like heavy amounts of gameplay, right?
Yeah.
So the story acts more as like a bridge between gameplay segments, not an excellent narrative. I'm not saying I love video games. I'm not saying a lot of them don't have excellent narratives. A lot of them do. I'm saying for like your average like stuff that's trying to be more bigger than what it wants to be, but it can't do that because animating cutscenes is really hard. Mm-hmm. So, and I feel like it's the same thing here.
You look at something like Half-Life where there are no cutscenes. It's all told within the story of the game. That's a good way to do it. Yeah. When you've got like a platformer game or something where it's like in between levels, it's like we now need to find an excuse for them to start running into the next level.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a thing.
I mean, this is a different subject together, but I think Half-Life's kind of a last of its kind of thing. Like,
sure.
I don't know if you'd see a lot of games. No, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I'd say it's not like you'd see a lot of games that try to do it purely without, telling the story through its gameplay. I think that's a very underrated element of video games that a lot don't do. Obviously, a lot of indie games do. There's stuff like Home, or Amy or something like that. I don't know. Home? I don't know what it's called.
Home is the film with Sheldon Cooper as the purple alien.
No, I'm not thinking of that. I'm thinking whatever. No, it was just this film about where you explore a house. I'm pretty sure that had no cutscenes in it. That's like indie stuff, and indie stuff's always like that. Whatever. We went off topic.
Hello, neighbor.
No. Whatever. Look, we've got off topic. But the Matrix comparison to a video game is, in my opinion, a very good one. In the fact that I think it tries to be more than what it can be, and it needed to be a completely different genre, I think, in order to tell the kind of story it wanted to tell.
I agree.
Because it's not. You can have a bit of action. I'm not saying you can't, but we're talking full on like martial arts level, like action where they're going over the top and they're going, hits and punches and stuff like that. It's like, what I mean? It's just a bit. The Matrix is a silly film, which I love. I love the film. It's too silly to make the top 100. I know we've made this argument like there's films that are so iconic they have to be, but I don't think The Matrix is honestly that iconic that it deserves to make the list.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Also, if you can see this poster here on the left, you see him, the bald guy. Mm-hmm. It's Ralphie from The Sopranos.
It is. It's Ralphie. It's Ralph Ciceretto. There he is.
Put him up.
Put him up. Yay! Make him say the gabagoo.
Anyway, what's next?
I'm looking forward to that Sopranos movie, by the way.
Same.
Anyway, A Clockwork Orange is next. Okay, here's the thing. Of all the people I know that have watched it, you're the only one I know who's just like, no, zero, don't like it.
It's a shame because Stanley Kubrick's like one of my favourite directors of all time. Like, I think his work is so good. But A Clockwork Orange just doesn't strike with me in any regard. I'm going to sound uncultured for this. But, like, I find it very shock value-y for shock value's sake. And I know a lot of people are going to go, well, that's the point. Yeah, but it's just not a point I resonate with. So
I like the concept. I think it's a pretty interesting concept. It's one I think even Star Trek has dabbled in as well, but it's kind of like... I think it's one of those ones where it feels like it should have been more like an episode of a TV show rather than a movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just don't see...
once you get over the principle, what else is really in this film?
Yeah, I don't see why I'd watch it again, other than just to be made to feel super uncomfortable. Which, again, you could argue is a good thing, that's making you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, like... I don't know. I feel like there was just... I can't put my finger on it. I've never read the book it's based off. I don't know if it's better or worse.
Oh well. I like the Monokuma one.
yeah, there is a Monokuma one, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
I just feel like, I don't know. I've seen A Clockwork Orange twice now, and it didn't I watched it because we talked about it in A-level history at one point, so I checked out then, and I didn't like it. and I watched it in my first year of university again, and I didn't like it that time too. And by that point, I fell in love with most of Kubrick's work. You know, The Shining. God, what? Give me a second.
Sorry, that time was too perfect.
I am such an idiot.
All of Kubrick's films, such as The Shining and
that's
the other ones.
That's the only film he made. I was going to say Doctor Strange. I was going to say Doctor Strangelove. 2001. What's the army one he did in like the late 90s? It's really cool.
Is it The Green
Full Metal Jacket. Full Metal
Jacket. Full Metal, just quickly on a quick tangent, Full Metal Jacket is one of those films where you kind of look at it and you go, this can't be as good as it is, and it is.
Yeah, it's excellent. No, that's why I say all of Kubrick's big films I love. 2001, fantastic. Full Metal Jacket, fantastic. The Shining, love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Doctor Strangelove, I think, is fantastic too, and I think that's one that's actually stood the test of time too. That's a really good movie. But in terms of this film in particular, I don't know, it just doesn't do anything for me.
Okay.
It's very, as I said, it's very shock value-y. You could argue that The Shining is also a film that's made to make you uncomfortable, but I think that fits the horror tone a lot better.
Okay.
Also, I don't know. I don't want to offend too many people because I know a lot of people love this movie to death.
Okay, well, if you're going to say no, I'm going to say yes. We put it in maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that's our first maybe film, by the way. We've gone this far. It's our first maybe film.
So would you say like you're fond of this movie, or?
I'd say I'm not necessarily fond of this movie, but I do think it is. It's definitely one people should watch.
I think it's Kubrick's most important film besides maybe 2001.
I agree. Yeah, no, I like this film, and I do think it's good. But I understand your criticisms of it, and I think they're all valid. I don't disagree with a single one, but it's one of those ones where I think it is saying something that I think people do need to listen to.
No, of course. The message, I will say that the message of the film is actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, next up is The Green Mile.
I really didn't expect this film to be on here.
Did you not?
No.
Okay.
But it's interesting. I was talking about The Green Mile the other day. Coincidentally enough, it's a good movie. It's a really sad film. I remember saying I think this was actually the first film I ever watched, because I actually watched this when I was a kid. I think this is the first film I ever watched that introduced me to the concept of like a sad ending.
Yeah.
Because this film doesn't end very happy.
Nope.
Like the thing at the beginning of this film, it happens at the end of the film. There's no matter how much they try to push it off, that the outcome's inevitable. And it's really sad. But it's I haven't seen it recent enough to give an opinion on whether it belongs in the top 100.
Okay.
But I remember it's a very emotional film. It's quite, would you say films deserve to be highly rated if they evoke an emotional response out of you?
Not necessarily. I think it's the way in which it does it has to be evaluated. I think though The Green Mile has a excuse for the emotional response is so great that it could be argued that it is, it deserves to be on this list because of it. Because as you said, the ending is inevitable.
No, so
it's what they do with the time in between that is so important, and I think it works because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind this film.
Because just for comparison, this is a good example of tugging on your heartstrings. A bad example is like all of those films where it's just like, and then the character's mother dies mysteriously halfway through the film or something, because we need something, a reason for the character to get sad, or their character's significant other gets kidnapped or something, where the emotion is used as a catalyst to further the story rather than an end point or a reason for the story.
No, I get you.
Oh, also see all of the Overwatch shorts as well. Here's my best friend. Well, they're not. Well, they're definitely going to die, aren't they? Oh, look, they're dead.
Yeah.
Every single one without fail.
Being sad for the sake of, like, being sad rather than actually telling a story that reaches that point.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and the Green Mile's very good at that, from what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it belongs in the top 100. I actually probably have to abstain from this, because I haven't seen it recently enough.
Alright, we'll put that in maybe then. Because again, I haven't seen it in a long time either, but I do remember it being quite good, so it's going in maybe for me. Next up, Saving Private Ryan. This is a lot of Tom Hanks.
He's in a lot of good movies, I guess.
It's true.
Saving Private Ryan is a pretty great film. It's a really... Again, it's one you could argue evokes an emotional response out of people. I forgot Spielberg's in it. Directed this, I guess. Or did he? Yeah. Or did he produce it?
I believe he actually did direct it, I want to say.
One of my favourite movie songs of all time is from this movie. And you probably know it. It's the big, like, sad piece when one of the characters sees...
It's the one that keeps being used in memes, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the film, that song was older than this film. I thought it was like, for some reason I thought it was like a World War II song, but no, it's from Saving Private Ryan. It gets me every time. I'm like, this is 98? What?
I myself am super into movie scores in general. Mm-hmm. And I feel like... I hate to be negative, but I feel like that's kind of a thing we're seeing less of is great movie scores.
It's all just generic. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, pretty much. But like, I love that song from Saving Private Ryan. I honestly can't go into too much detail about why I love Saving Private Ryan. I just think it tells a very excellent story in a really emotional way. I definitely recommend. I'd put on the list. I'm gonna have to put it on the list.
I'm not arguing with that either. I have the only version of this film I have is a VHS. I don't own it on DVD or Blu-ray. I just have VHS of it lying around. No, I like it too. I also always forget Matt Damon's in this film too until I see him.
He's
really... like, oh shit, yeah, he is in this film.
He's really young.
Yeah, I agree. No, Saving Private Ryan is a good film, and it's the same with The Green Mile as well, where it does hinge a lot on its emotional impact.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Like, guys, maybe war isn't good. Maybe. Anyway, no more war. It's Back to the Future.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sure.
What is there to say? Like, Back to the Future's a classic, dude.
Well, of course, it's a classic. It is one of those films, though. I hate the fact that people sell it as a comedy because don't get me wrong, it's got comedic moments in it, but it's not a flat out comedy. And I think quite a few people have had their expectations ruined by this film by going in thinking it's going to be like a laugh-a-minute film, and it really isn't.
I'd say the comedy in it's just like, well, it's not a laugh-a-minute kind of thing. It's just well-executed jokes.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. But it's the fact that it's whenever top comedy films and Back to the Future's in there. I'm like, it has comedic moments in it, but it's not like a comedy film. I
think it's sold purely on the point because Marty's mother wants to sleep with him. I think that's like the main thing, and that is funny, to be fair.
But I also like his parents before he travels back in time as well. I think that his parents are criminally underrated in that film.
No, yeah,
just because of how funny they are.
No, it's excellent. You can quote this movie is so quotable. Like, to this day, it's one of the most quotable movies of all time for me. Again, we talked about movie scores. The score of Back to the Future is fantastic. No, I absolutely love Back to the Future 1. I think it's a fantastic film. Me and you both aren't big on the sequels, so...
Yeah, see, I have a soft spot for 2, but I really don't like 3.
Yeah, 3 is the weakest. 3 is such a nothing movie.
Yeah, exactly. But also, it kind of like, it makes the ending of 2 kind of like pointless as well, so I just don't like it either.
Yeah, no, I mean, not much more to say about Back to the Future. I love all the actors in this film. I think that Biff is one of the greatest movie
Oh my
characters of all time.
god, I agree.
He's so funny. Like we still quote. We're like me and you still say butthead. Like so, like he's resonated with us at least. And I also really like. So why don't you make like a tree and get the hell out of here? No, it's super good, super creative. I love this film. For the 80s, in 1985, it must have been quite exciting for them to see like the 50s represented in cinema again.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas like nowadays, it's probably like, yeah, this is the 50s again, I guess.
I also like this film's like its tone as well. It's also like, I'm sorry, not its tone. Its visual identity. It's a very good looking film as well.
No, I agree.
Like there's not a lot of special effects in there, but the ones that are really good.
And they play this film a lot on TV, and I watch it every time it's on.
That's true. I swear it's on like every week on like ITV2.
Yeah. I've seen this film over 10 times and I never get bored of it. It's one of my absolute favourite films of all time. Belongs on the list 100%.
Yeah, same. I agree. I love Back to the Future 1. Anyway, next, it's Up, the Pixar film.
No,
absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Not only do I not like this film, I just don't even know what impact it had either.
Oh, no, Up's a horrible movie. Like, I really don't like it. Like, me and you... I think we've said this, like, I know a lot of people have this opinion. Technically, our opinion's not actually that unpopular, but me and you both agree that after the first 10 minutes, you can, like, just stop watching it.
Yeah, exactly, I agree. I think we said that before as well in a previous episode.
The thing is, those first 10 minutes have, like, fucking all to do with the rest of that movie, except to explain why he's a grumpy old man. But like you could have literally done anything for that. You didn't have to make the first 10 minutes so good and just disappoint us with the rest of the film. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
If the rest of the film was like that, I would love this film, but it's not. It just changes tone off those first 10 minutes.
Well, that's the thing with Pixar. They don't want to commit to risky stuff like that. They always have to add in some kind of gimmick or some kind of like, if this was. Because, to be fair, kids aren't going to watch a film about an old man dealing with his wife's death.
I would have loved to have seen that, though.
It would have been an interesting movie, yeah, but, like, at the end of the day, this is a film for kids, so...
But the doggy can talk,
To be fair, okay, there is one joke I really like in it, and it's where the big hench dog comes in and he's got a really squeaky voice. That's the one joke in this film I'll defend. It's because it caught me off guard. It's really funny. But I don't know, like, I guess you could argue it's got, like, a lot of heart to it, I guess. But, like, I don't know.
Heart don't fly in this industry, babe.
I hate this film's, like, look, in terms of the location they go. Like,
it's supposed to be like the middle of the jungle. It's just like a brown rock field.
Yeah, it's a brown rock for like most of the film. I don't know.
Beautiful, beautiful paradise. Yeah.
I don't know. The movie just doesn't do anything for me personally.
I agree.
There's better Pixar films you can watch. Probably.
It's also one of the few Pixar films that, even Disney barely acknowledges as well. It's like, you still hear stuff about A Bug's Life than you do Up.
I mean, I feel like after WALL-E, Disney haven't referenced much of Pixar's output.
I mean, Cars 2, and
well,
Cars 3
Cars technically predates WALL-E.
I know, but this is a sequel film specifically for Cars that Disney have kind of run with. Remember, Cars had a spin-off that then also got its own spin-off and a TV show as well.
You know what? It's probably because it's like Cars was just made to sell toys though. So
true.
That works.
And it also had a strangely good video game as well, which I don't understand.
Sure.
Anyway, next film is Snatch.
No. I like Snatch though. That's good. but no.
Okay. No. Okay, that's staying in the no category.
Good movie. Good movie. Brad Pitt does a horrible, like, cause he's doing an Irish accent in this, right?
Yeah.
Does a horrible Irish accent.
I think it's supposed to be an Irish accent.
Huh?
It's supposed to be an Irish accent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But he's still good in this movie, just by bad accent. I like Snatch. I just think it's a movie that's just very style over substance. I don't think a lot really happens in this film. I don't really take away a lot from this film. It's a good movie. I'm not gonna I do like it, but I put it in the same vein. I put something like, God, what's the film I'm thinking with Ewan McGregor?
Trainspotting?
Trainspotting. I put it in the same camp as Trainspotting, where it's a good film. I think there's more style over substance in it. And as much as I like both films, I like Trainspotting more than this. I would say that they're just not for me personally in terms of best films of all time. I could watch Snatch again. It's an entertaining romp, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd say it's in top 100 best movies of all time. Nah.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I've seen Trainspotting, and I've got the book too.
Trainspotting's good. Trainspotting's really good. I'd say it's better than this.
All right, sure. Speaking of the 2000s, whoa, Gladiator.
No, I wouldn't put this there either.
Ooh, that's a very long pause.
I just don't get why it's on the list.
To be fair, it's like the Lord of the Rings. Everyone was talking about this film the year when it came out. Everyone.
I guess I don't remember.
Cultural impact alone.
I guess I just do not recall as a 4-year-old.
Why not?
See, Lord of the Rings I remember because I was in the age demographic that was super big in it when it came out. But Gladiator, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no as well.
Honestly, because it's just kind of a I get what they were going for, but I think it's one of those ones where I think the script suffered from quite a lot of revisions to the point where the message just isn't really. Yeah. It's a dumb action film.
Yeah, it's a very safe movie.
I agree.
I don't know what part of it resonated so much with audiences because it's super. I mean, that's, to be fair, that is Hollywood, isn't it? But it's just, I don't know. It's very safe. Nothing about the film is unique at all. The story's been done so many times before. I think was it bloody Doug Walker brought up the fact that it's just the Moses story.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all because that story's done you can't do it, just put an interesting twist on it, but you don't. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I don't know, I just can't agree with Gladiator. If you like it, that's fine. I don't dislike Gladiator. I watched Gladiator on a plane, and I thought very little of it then, and that was before I heard about the acclaim it had. I just never understood why people loved it so much.
Sure.
I watched it, I was like, okay, that was fine. And then, people were like, oh, Gladiator, one of the best movies of all time. I'm like, no. It's not even Ridley Scott's best film.
Agreed.
Far from it, so.
Anyway, next up is Life is Beautiful.
I have not seen it.
Me neither, unfortunately, but it sounds like a good film.
It looks cute.
And it's about the Holocaust.
Shit. Well, the poster looked cute. I just read the description. When an open-minded Jewish librarian and his son become victims of the Holocaust, he uses a perfect mixture of will, humour, and imagination to protect his son from the dangers around the camp. What makes this Jewish librarian so open-minded?
He read a book, dude.
Okay, sure. Well, I mean, it looks good. I always love stuff that, centres around World War II stuff, so I'll definitely put it on my list to watch.
But It's going in the not seen pile for us.
That poster does not look like a 97 poster.
No, I think I want to say that's what it's going for.
Ooh, fancy.
Ooh. Anyway, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Yes.
Is that just because you like it?
I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think it's amazing. Like, there's very few films I think are perfect, and I think Raiders of the Lost Ark makes that very short list.
Whoa!
Let me tell you why Raiders of
I wouldn't say.
Let me tell you why Raiders of the Lost Ark is perfect. Indiana Jones, character-wise, fantastic in this movie. Beautiful. The action in this movie, it's not like just any action. Super creative. Like, every scene. My personal favourite is the car chase near the end, where he's holding on to the... There's part of it where he's holding on to the van with the rope, the whip, and he's getting dragged across. And then he has to get onto it and, like, fight his way on. Beautiful. The opening set piece, beautiful. This film is perfectly paced, beginning to end.
Say that first 15 minutes of this film is so iconic as well.
Yeah, and the ending is super iconic
the ending,
as well.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. I have like no issues with Raiders of the Lost Ark. I like, obviously the sequels I do like, but the third one coming very close to the quality of the first. But I just think the first one, like, it got everything right first time, and like this is an action romp, but the action in it is so, as I said, it's so unique. It's not being replicated. A lot of the stuff, again, maybe it's because it's all done, with actual stuff and not just CGI. But I can think of all the set pieces in this, like the opening temple one, the fight, the chase in the city, where they run, where the girl gets kidnapped and they run into the sword guy that he just shoots.
Yes, I love that scene.
The comedy in this movie is so good. Indiana Jones's character, I think, gets typecasted as way more serious than he actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Harrison Ford's performance, like, I don't think Harrison Ford, I think he only can really pull off one kind of emotion, like, especially these days. But like, it's perfect for Indy. The fight near
Harrison Ford as Harrison Ford.
the fight at the plane with the big German guy is like the best thing ever. Like, Indiana Jones looks so fed up when he sees him come by. Like, he looks so upset. Like, that stuff, it makes it feel more real, and like, the mystical elements at the end is awesome. I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. One of the best, if not the best, adventure movie ever made. That's what I'm going to say. Love Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I agree.
Belongs.
And to think, it's all just a homage to those 50s films as well. It's such a good, like, deconstruction of what those old films were, even down to their imperfections too.
And George Lucas helped make this.
I know.
Like, he's weird. Half of the reason. He's half of the creative thing behind this, but besides Spielberg. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
And obviously, me and you like the first film. You're not big on Temple of Doom, right?
Yeah, no, I like one. Yeah, I like 1 and 3. I don't like 2 and 4.
I like the first 3, but I think Temple of Doom is by and far the weakest. And I think it's like, even if somebody said it wasn't good, I'd probably not make an argument against that, because I'd be like, 2 does some really stupid stuff.
Hey, Hysteria. I think the second film is not so good.
That's fine. It does a lot of dumb stuff. There's a part where they eat
chilled monkey brain.
You love that scene.
I love that scene because it's so funny, like, because it's just like, what do you think people here eat?
Yeah.
Also, the girl in the second film's super annoying.
I agree.
So I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Definitely my top 10.
Sure.
I'd definitely belongs to the list.
The next is The Pianist.
Never seen it. We're getting a lot of World War II Jewish Holocaust stuff.
I have noticed that as well. Yeah. Next is Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah. Sure, 100%. Fantastic
Yeah.
movie. If you ever want to watch it, it's on Netflix, I think.
Okay.
You know Anthony Hopkins?
I know Anthony Hopkins. Not personally.
He's British. He's a really good actor, especially in this. He ended up playing Hannibal for the 2 sequels that were made 10 years after this. But Silence of the Lambs is fantastic. Like, it's super well directed. And, like, you know, Anthony Hopkins isn't a very intimidating looking man. But because they shot it super well, they make him look scary. And all the interesting stuff in Silence of the Lambs is literally just the conversations between Hannibal and Jodie Foster's character in this. And you're just mesmerized by the conversations in this. And you'll notice a lot of the films I'll compliment on this list have really good dialogue. And the film Silence of the Lambs, I'd highly recommend you watch it if you haven't. It's like the Hannibal-wise, it's probably still my favourite piece of Hannibal media, with the Netflix series coming a close second, because that's really good too. But Anthony Hopkins' Hannibal is such a good character, because like he knows how to play the character really creepy. And I hear that he's actually not in the book that much, but the movie gave him a lot of extra scenes because they're like, Hannibal's just such a good character. Let's give him a bunch of extra scenes. And actually, it was this movie that made Hannibal like a big icon, not the books. Because if you didn't know, Hannibal's not actually in like the first 2 books that much at all.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so there's a little interesting fact. Silence of the Lambs is what made Hannibal big, not the books. And then the books actually took note of the film, and that's why the 3rd book has a lot of Hannibal in it. But that 3rd book's not very good anyway, so. From what I hear, I haven't read it. The adaptation of it by Ridley Scott's horrible. It's just called Hannibal.
Okay.
If I'd read Silence of the Lambs, I would definitely put on the list. Watch it if you have. Great film.
Casablanca is next.
I've seen Casablanca once and I was really bored.
Sure.
It is one of the most important movies ever made, though. Like, you can't deny that.
Do you want to put it in maybe then?
I mean, like, as I said, I just find it boring. But like, it's not even a thing where it's like you just find 40s film. I have seen films from the 40s, and I think that because like Citizen Kane was the 40s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that film holds up pretty well. But Casablanca bored me to tears. So like, I don't even think it's an old thing. I don't think older movies are more boring. I think that's a very bad statement to make about old films. You know, new films can be boring. It's like, I think it's just a bias thing when people say old films are boring, honestly. But I think Casablanca is really boring. I'm just not into it like at all. So
okay.
It is one of the most iconic films ever made, though. So I don't know if I'd put it there just because of how important it is.
But this is a list of films you have to watch.
Yeah, in which case I'll say no.
I'll say no. Okay, sure. I'm not going to argue with that. I'm going to say no. I think the same. Like you said, it is a pretty like, it is an important film, but like Citizen Kane was a year before, and it's better.
And it's like way better. Yeah, and it's not boring.
I think it's also the type of story isn't very interesting either. And I guess you could argue it's the early days of cinema, but it is like the most generic story as well.
Yeah, but like even like a lot of I know it's not the 40s per se, but no, a lot of it is the 40s. A lot of Hitchcock's films are the 40s as well.
Yeah.
And some of those, because I ended up recently watching some of them. And I remember specifically, was it Spellbound I watched or whatever? I ended up thinking that ended up pretty good. But some of his 50s films are excellent, like Dial M for Murder and stuff like that. And that's not too long after this, so it's just kind of like... I wouldn't even use the era as an excuse for why it's boring. I just think it's more the fault with the people who made it, I guess.
Sure.
But I'd agree, yeah, the story is incredibly generic.
Hey, it's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, I'd probably put on the list. Like,
Okay.
2001: A Space Odyssey still looks good today.
Yes, definitely.
Like, if you look up a trailer of 2001: A Space Odyssey and like put in like the highest quality, like it looks like a movie that was made today. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to exaggerate that. And based on that, a lot of people I've heard it is a style over substance film. I don't know if you can really deny it, but it is like such a mesmerizing, unique style that for that alone, I would put that as one of my favorite movies. I love Kubrick's work, and 2001: A Space Odyssey is definitely one of his best.
Well, I think it's one of those films that's it's less of a film and more of an experience.
No, yeah, of course. It did a lot for me when I first watched it, so. But maybe you need to have like a good setup to watch it, though.
Yeah, you need to be in the mood for it.
Yeah.
I
also
doubt you can't just pop it on.
Yeah, I doubt watching it on stream at like 480p is going to do much for you either. Because I think you'd be doing the film a disservice.
No, yeah, you need to get the best screen in the house, the best sound system in the house. Obviously, if all you've got is a laptop, I mean, go for it. But you do need to just be immersed in this film.
Yeah, no, you do. Yeah, you
it's
need
a
to be in
similar
a state
thing
of
with The
mind.
Lighthouse. You need like the biggest screen possible to watch that on, just because it makes it adds to the experience.
No, yeah, of course. But anyway, I guess we should move on because I don't know much more to say.
Haha, Toy Story.
Sure. Good film. I prefer the second one.
I prefer the original,
Yeah.
actually, myself. But
The reason I like the first one a lot is because Woody is like such a dick for no reason.
Yes.
But he's not unlikable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think it's important to make him a dick, where you can kind of understand where he's coming from. But at the end of the day, his actions are kind of unjustified. But he's also a likable character. Plus, they punish him a lot for like the stuff he did. So, it's. I think honestly, for a Disney film, it's really unique. Well, I guess it's Pixar, but still.
I also like a lot of the actors that are in it too.
Yes.
They're all really good.
I think the comedy of this movie is also really underrated because, again, it's not like a joke a minute kind of thing. Like, they actually take their time to set out and prepare, like, well thought out jokes. And it's like, and a lot of the humor in this movie is really cynical. And, as I said, for Pixar, that seems a bit, does that not seem a bit strange? That, like, a lot of the humor in this is, like, quite cynical, quite, more something an adult would laugh at, I think, than a kid.
Yeah.
And I think the sequel's like that too. I would say it wasn't until the third film where they kind of dumbed down the humor a bit and the writing. But the first two films feel a lot more mature in the way they present themselves. You know, obviously there's dumb slapstick here and there, but like, I don't know, it feels more like the characters actually feel like people despite the fact they're toys. They actually feel like they're real people, and I think for a Disney film, especially, like, that's quite the achievement. So I'd probably put Toy Story on this list just for... Well, not only that, you can make the same argument you made with Lion King. It's one of the most important animated films of all time, and it changed the medium. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I definitely put on this list. I love Toy Story. It's a classic, in my opinion. You could show this to a kid today and they'd love it.
Yeah, it's also just really good too.
It's a really good film. I think you could show it to an adult today and they'd love it, even if they'd never seen it. Yeah, as I said, I do prefer the sequel just a tiny bit more, but the original is still fantastic. So yeah, not much to say.
Next is Three Idiots.
Never seen it.
The same, but it is on my list actually after like...
This is our first, like, foreign film, isn't it?
No, it's our third.
Okay. Yes, you're right. Because there was the one about the Brazilian kids, right? Am I going...
Yes, there was.
Huh. Well, I haven't seen it. I remember my friend saw it back in the day, because he's Indian, and he ended up watching this, and he really liked it, and he's recommended me it ever since, and I still haven't seen it.
It's on Netflix.
Well, damn. Okay, I guess we have to see it.
There it is. Next up is Wall-E.
Oh god.
We've already talked about this film.
I'm conflicted on this one because, like, I think visually it's one of the best Pixar movies ever, and I think there's some moments in it that are flat out beautiful, and I'd say even some of the best stuff you'll see in cinema, period, come from this film purely visually. But let's just make the argument that everyone else makes negatively. The second half of this film's way weaker than the first half. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do you agree on that?
Yeah. I don't think you can even class it as the first half. I think it's like the first 20 minutes.
Sure. I just
basically, as soon as they leave Earth, I lose interest.
My friend asked me how would you improve this film, and I said I would keep it completely dialogueless and just tell a story without words, because Pixar could have broke new ground for 2008 for Disney and Pixar. They could have broke new ground with that, and they chose not to. I feel like this film, of all the Pixar films, feels the most like there was some kind of corporate interference.
I mean, just look at the design of Wall-E.
Yeah. It's like, there definitely feels like there was some really big corporate interference. I couldn't tell you why that was. Maybe they thought like a completely silent film wouldn't sell too well.
Maybe.
But I'd argue based on his design alone, you could sell loads.
Yeah.
I feel like in the trailers there wasn't much about like the talking part of the movie.
No, it was all about the robot does funny thing.
So, if you sold audiences on that, you should have just kept it like that. Maybe they just didn't have enough material for it. I guess what could you do for like an hour?
Well, then what they did was just tell a really generic story after that as well. Just human fat bad.
The human fat thing is also just such a tonal shift. And it comes out of nowhere. They look like they're from a completely different art style.
Also, don't forget as well. The pre-fat humans are all live action as well.
Yeah, no 100%.
Which I thought was a really weird choice.
As I said, visually, this is one of my favorite ones. I think all the stuff in it holds up very well today. I don't know. I can't make an argument for why I would keep it on this list. Like, I'm gonna have to say no. It's too flawed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I like it more than Up.
Sure. But what's that saying?
Big Lebowski.
Anyway, this is the Big Lebowski, yeah.
Does Big Lebowski belong on this list? Oh, that's an interesting question. Does it? I'm really stuck on this one. Because I really do like the movie. I mean, like, what do you think?
I would say yes, but I'm also just biased because I really like this movie. It's one of those like nothing films.
Yeah, it is
the film has no plot.
Yeah,
but it's just watching three characters mess around for a few.
Well, the
hours.
thing is, I kicked off Snatch for similar reasons, where I'm like, I feel like there's not much going on in the film, and it's very, but I feel like the Big Lebowski I love like to death. So I think that maybe I'm coming off as a bit of a hypocrite, but no, Big Lebowski probably does belong in the top 100. I love the Big Lebowski so much.
Okay.
I think it's a really good movie, and I think that I agree that there's a lot of nothing happening, and you could make the argument like against me because you're like, yeah, you made the same argument that some of these films deserve to get kicked off for being nothing film. Like I didn't put Snatch on there because I'd argue there's really not much going on in films like Snatch, and it's very style over substance. But I think Big Lebowski actually benefits from it more so because, as you said, the characters just mess around for like the entire movie, and
yeah.
I really do like it. I think it deserves its acclaim. I think a lot of films have tried to replicate the whole like, what if we made a film about nothing kind of thing, but just like missed the point of why Big Lebowski
Yeah,
was so good.
exactly. The one I see a lot of people draw comparisons to is something like Pineapple Express.
Yeah.
Which, ooh, I know that has a reputation, but I cannot get behind that film, I'm sorry. It's him! It's him! Next is it's the parasite of its day, it's Amélie.
You know, it's a funny thing about this film, and I think I talked to you about this. I see this film in like DVD stores everywhere, like every single one I've been to. I've seen this cover, and I've never watched it.
It literally is, but this literally was the parasite of its day. You go back and watch the that Red Letter Media review of like Parasite, and they're like, have you heard of Amélie? Yeah. Oh, you have? Oh, it's not good then. You know, it's one of those films where everyone was like, oh, finally I've seen a foreign film. Oh wait, you've seen it too? Never mind. I don't think this film deserves to be on this list.
Any particular reason?
Just simply because of the reputation it has. Like, it's an okay film as it is, but it very much suffers from that Parasite thing where it's just a foreign film that people liked, so therefore it got really popular.
But we loved Parasite.
Like, yeah, I know we loved Parasite, and that's fine, and you can like Parasite, but Amélie is just all the things that people complained about Parasite. It's just this film too. Don't get me wrong, watch it. Absolutely, it is a film that if you do want to watch it, go for it. It is a popular film, it's a good film. But I think it's just one of those ones where its reputation is bigger than it should. It's Avatar. Again, it's Avatar, where people just remember it because it was big.
I mean, I remember it because of the front cover.
Because of the front cover, yeah. You know, if we discounted that other film earlier and we discounted Avatar, we've got to discount this.
Sure.
Yeah, if we discounted Forrest Gump and we discounted that, we've got to discount this, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not going to make an argument
Not
against
Forrest
it.
Gump.
I haven't seen it, so...
This film wasn't Forrest Gump, sorry, it was Inception. So if we discount Inception, we discount Avatar, we've got to discount Amélie for the same thing. It's a film that people watched because it was big, not because it's actually good.
Okay.
Even though it is good. So that's going in the nay category. Next is American Beauty.
Haven't seen it.
Me neither.
Well,
next is The Shining.
Yes, and you recently watched this too. You watched it in
Yes,
cinema.
it's true.
We went together and saw it in cinema.
It's true, yeah. That's the first time I saw it was in cinema with you.
Yeah, and you were quite impressed overall.
I was.
You know, that made me so happy because like The Shining is one of my favorite movies ever. And I was so happy you came out liking it, despite the fact
I came out and I said it's a masterpiece of modern horror.
despite the fact it's not very scary.
No, it's not a horror film.
No.
Well, it is. I guess it has to be a horror film because what else would you class it as? Uncomfortable.
It makes you uncomfortable, but in the right way, as opposed to like Clockwork Orange, right? So it didn't do that in the right way for me. The Shining's is such a good movie. Like I love everything about it. The way this is one of my favorite shot movies ever. And you'll know like they picked like very wide shots of the hotel to give kind of like a very empty look to it. There's the really good shot where he's walking between the places and the camera follows between the rooms. And one of the most iconic ones is where something rolls up to the kid, and it's an overhead shot looking down on the carpet. Like, this movie had like no reason to be as good as it was, but like I remember at the time audiences were mixed on this film. Like it wasn't considered a masterpiece like it is today. So I don't know what people ended up being won over by, but I'd say that The Shining is really a masterpiece of, as it says there, of modern horror. I don't love a lot of horror films. I think a lot of them fall into, the schlock category, like a lot of action films do. But I will highly rate The Shining as one of my favorite movies of all time. You have to go into it with some kind of set expectations. As I said, this movie's not really scary in either of our opinion. And there's a lot of awkward, like, prolonged shots of, like, Jack Nicholson's face in this. And the one I think of is when he's looking at his wife and kid playing in the snow and he's just staring at them with, like, the deadpan look. And you could argue that comes off unintentionally funny rather than uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's all perfect. I think all the awkwardness of The Shining is intentional. Because remember, he made, like, I don't know if you knew, but Kubrick made these guys do retakes into the hundreds on certain shots. Like,
that is quite a well-told story.
He wore them down just so that he can get what he considered very legit things. And a lot of people actually said the acting, I remember apparently reviews at the time was like the acting's unrealistic, and it's like, no, if anything, it's catching more of a desperate nature to the actors because they are exhausted.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people don't see that. And obviously, if you did that in today's world, you'd sue the director for doing that. And I'll state this, what Kubrick did wasn't right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree.
What Kubrick did wasn't right. That's kind of a horrible thing to do. Like, to make actors retake loads of times.
Yeah.
Just like, but
Listen, I've heard some of the stuff you said about our university lecturers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's just a case of, like, I think Kubrick, I don't respect what he did, but I respect the final product it came out as. Because, as I said, in Hollywood nowadays, there's no way you'd get away with that. Yeah, either the actor would quit or they'd sue. So yeah, I know 100%. Like, The Shining is one of my favorite movies of all time. Purely, it's an experience, and cinematography wise, it's excellent. And it's not a horror movie you'll really see these days, because horror movies like to focus mainly on jump scares, which this film doesn't have many of.
As far as I'm aware, it only has one, right? And you can kind of see it coming too. So
yeah, exactly. And the part near the end where, like, it's all building to him snapping, and when it finally does happen, it's such a big moment. And, like, the red rum scene is so iconic. And, like, I don't know. We both really like this. Are you going to put it on the top 100?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
I love this film.
So, okay, there you go.
Right, number 41. It's American History X.
Okay. So, American History X is an interesting film, and I actually super love the message it goes for. And I think this is another film that kind of pulls on. It's one of those, like, pulls on the heartstring thing, because this neo-Nazi character, is he played by Edward Norton? I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He goes to prison, and he learns, like, he's a racist. As I said, he's a neo-Nazi. But through the friend he makes in prison, who's, African-American, he realizes that he's wrong. These people aren't bad like he's being made to think. And he actually comes out of prison a different person. And he's trying to prevent his younger brother from doing the same thing. And it all leads to this really, like, it's just this big adventure big story where he's trying desperately to make his brother think differently. And, like, without spoiling it, like, the ending of this film is very heartbreaking, because you think, like, he might be getting through to him, but unfortunately certain events in the films kind of makes it go down a different path. So it's not an easy film to watch, I'll say that. It covers some very mature adult subjects. If you don't like stuff like racism being talked about, you're not going to like this movie, because it presents it in a very, like, there's a lot of racist characters in this film, but the point it's getting across is really good. So I think it justifies it, and I'm gonna give this one the thumbs up. I think it belongs in the top 100 films ever.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen it?
I have not seen this one. No.
I'd highly recommend it. As I said, go in, like, go in expecting. Like, I don't know if I'm selling it wrong here, but like it can be. The ending is quite sad, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, because it just feels like similar to the Green Mile, where like you feel like you know the conclusion ahead of time, and like you're trying desperately to fight that conclusion. You're like, please, just don't end like how I think it's gonna end. But then it just ends how you think it's gonna end, and it's like, oh no, yeah.
And you're like, no.
It's a good movie though. I'd recommend American History X to anyone.
Sure. Okay. Next up is The Terminator.
Not Terminator 2.
No, just The Terminator.
I mean, The Terminator is still a really good movie. Like, it's still.
I agree. Yeah.
Like,
See, that's the thing. Is it's the same with Alien and Aliens? They're both good films, but for different reasons.
Yeah. No, of course. Sure. I'd thumbs this up because I love The Terminator. I think it's excellent. Some of the effects haven't aged well. I'm thinking specifically, the Arnold fake head in the mirror.
Yes.
Or the stop motion Terminator at the end.
That stop motion Terminator, I actually laughed when I saw it, but I understand. You do with what you've got, right? It's 1984.
But it is a really exciting film because not many films do the whole being hunted by the one person thing for like the entire movie, and like the odds feel so stacked against them. But they come out on top. It's a good movie. It's a very basic movie, but it's a really good movie. The sequel improved on it in every way. So I'd always recommend Terminator 2 over Terminator 1. But The Terminator is an excellent film that unfortunately started a really long film franchise.
Yep. But, those first two films, bellissimo.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the rest of the films just didn't. It goes against the message of like Terminator 2, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. Even the second film still somewhat sticks to that message.
Yeah.
Of just watch out, don't go too far. I guess it's the same message as Jurassic Park as well, if you want to look at it. Just it's done in a different way.
I mean, films that get made franchises out of, usually they take the original and they miss the point of like why the originals were so good.
Yeah.
Like, we can
again with Alien too.
Yeah, exactly. And we can make this point with like if you're going to talk about Jurassic Park, like, Jurassic World, there's more dinosaurs and stuff like that. And it's like, look, dude, the whole point of Jurassic Park 1 was that like it was horrible and they were never going to do it again. Why are we still, why are we still going on with this? There's only so many times I can get excited by, and same with Terminator. There's only so many times you can do the same concept and I can get excited for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
But this one's going on the list.
Yeah, we'll put Terminator 1 there.
Next is Apocalypse Now.
I haven't seen it.
Honestly, me neither.
Again, this is another film I'm super sad I haven't seen because this is one you always see in like the best films of lists.
Yeah, I agree.
Martin Sheen's in it.
He is.
Charlie Sheen's dad.
Yes, the Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen, who is still alive to this day.
Yes, Mr. Sheen.
He is still alive. He's 80. Bloody hell.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Moving on.
Moving on. Memento.
I have not seen it.
Me neither.
Well,
but it's an interesting concept, I guess.
A man with short-term memory loss attempts to track down his wife's murderer. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds interesting. I could get behind it.
Okay. Next up is Braveheart.
Does Braveheart belong on the top 100? I don't know. I'm leaning towards no, And it's not because Braveheart isn't a good movie, but I just think that it's because it's as I said, I find it entertaining. I just like top 100 of all time.
Yeah,
probably not. I like Mel Gibson's performance in this. Obviously, the ending resonates with a lot of people because it's he stays stubborn till the end, even when they're about to hang, draw, and quarter him.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the story. I don't know. I can't even put it. It's just not in my top 100. That's all. It's not one of my personal favorite films, but it's a good romp, I guess.
Sure, and I guess I will have to agree with that too. I think it's a good story. It's a bit of history too. You get to learn a thing or two. But I think it is kind of, at the end of the day, a bit of a.
I think
it's a Hollywood version of history.
Yeah,
of course, it's going to be ridiculous.
I think top 100 films need something about them that makes them properly stick out. I think Braveheart's missing that.
Yeah, true.
There's nothing about Braveheart that makes me think best film of all time. At all. It's a very functional, it's a very competently made film, but I don't know. It would go on the list. It'd go on a list similar to The Matrix for me, where it's I like it, but I can't put it higher than where I'd put it. And I didn't put Matrix on this list either, so yeah, not much more to say on it. I think Mel Gibson's good in the role, despite what I think of him as a person.
Well, there is that too. Everyone points out the fact that Mel Gibson got it, and it's just yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's. I guess I'm not happy either, but it's considering the fact of how much talent we have over here, and you're just we'll pick another American to play. It's
play a Scottish person, so it's just kind of
yeah.
I don't know. It's a bit. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't, but it's stuck with people. People still quote Braveheart to this day.
No, they quote one line from Braveheart.
Yeah, it's a good.
It's
a good line.
Do they?
It's a good line.
Sure, I guess.
Okay, what's next?
Anyway, Seven Samurai is next.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
please watch Seven Samurai.
there's a samurai and there's 7 of them. I just don't.
I am so happy an Akira Kurosawa film came on this.
I think it's the only
one. Seven Samurai is the only one that's big in the West. I've watched most of them, but Akira Kurosawa, Seven Samurai isn't my personal favorite Akira Kurosawa film. If I could recommend anyone watch an Akira Kurosawa film, I will always say the 1985 film Ran, just R-A-N, ran, he ran away. That's my favorite Kurosawa film personally. But
God, he was active for ages, 1954 to 1985.
No, he's a fantastic director. Up until he died, his quality really didn't degrade at all. You could argue Seven Samurai is the people. Going into Seven Samurai, I warn people, this is a lengthy movie. Even by cinema standards, this is a lengthy film.
But this was back in the day where intermissions were more prevalent. You don't get intermissions in films anymore, but back then you did.
But Seven Samurai inspired so much stuff, and maybe this isn't good for you, but it inspired Star Wars.
Okay. To be fair, didn't 10 films inspire Star Wars?
Yeah.
There's so many things where people have drawn comparisons to other films.
Seven Samurai's plot isn't inherently super unique, but it's done so incredibly well. And obviously, I hate to talk about the ending again, but the ending of this film is so good. That iconic shot that you're seeing on the poster right there is essentially what they do with the ending, where they stick all the swords in the in the ground. Not to go into spoilers, and it's such a good look. Seven Samurai is such a fantastic movie. It stood the test of time. I would tell people to watch a lot of Kurosawa's films, because he makes good movies. And now, 100%. Just I don't know what else to say. Seven Samurai is a great film. Love it.
Sure. On the list. It's on the list.
It's on the list.
Next is Scarface.
I have not seen it.
That surprises me that you haven't seen Scarface. Genuinely, that surprises me.
It's interesting, right? Because I'm super into stuff like this.
You're into mafia films, and you like Al Pacino.
Yeah, but like, I haven't seen Scarface. I don't know why. Maybe it's because like everyone only ever talks about the last action scene, right?
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen Scarface?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
So like, how would you sell it to somebody?
Well, it's like, I guess it's one of those. It's I don't know. I guess if you like, it's really hard because because the way I'm trying to describe it is it sounds quite generic, but it's kind of like, what if one of those mafia films, you know, everyone talks about the mafia films that stray away from the violence. What if one of them just went sod it and just ran with the violence thing? You know, it's definitely more of an action film than like something like The Godfather or or even The Sopranos, which focuses more on the characters. This is definitely like, yeah, the characters are there, but you know, it is quite a violent film.
I remember, didn't this film when it first came out, I feel like it had, like, people were saying it got mixed reviews as well, and it's one of those ones that have aged better, like, people look back more on it fondly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it didn't review too well when it came out.
I think people just wrote it off as, like, a violent thing, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe, as you're claiming, that's kind of the point.
No, I'm not saying it's the point, I'm just saying it is. It is just it's just an action film kind of with the mafia, because that's the thing, is all the popular mafia stuff is, they don't do the violence thing, and I think there's more mafia stuff that doesn't do the violence thing than does. That has become popular, and this is one of the few that's just like, it is violent and it became popular.
Sure.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, I definitely need to check it out.
Top 100
surprised.
movies of all time, though.
It's iconic.
Sod it. Yeah, it's on the list.
It's iconic. I'm surprised you like it so much, considering like everything you described about it sounds like stuff you wouldn't like in film.
I don't know. It's entertaining though. You can't. I'm not gonna deny if you impress me, I'm gonna like it.
Sure. Okay.
I'm not that much of a snob.
Sure. Well, let's keep going then.
Taxi Driver.
Yeah, obviously it belongs on there. I mean, it's obviously going to show. I love Scorsese's films, despite what I think of the guy, because I think he's really rude. He makes good movies. Even as late as you've seen The Irishman, so even as late as that, he's still making good movies.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be so sad. Like, I feel like people of his craft are definitely fading away in Hollywood, because like Scorsese might be, for me, the highest output of great movies that came from one person. Like, even its weakest films for me, I don't really hate per se. Taxi Driver is a really excellent film. Definitely one of Scorsese's best. One of Robert De Niro's best roles as well. I also really like him in Raging Bull, which is the one about the boxing.
Yep.
Really good. Like, I would tell anyone to watch Taxi Driver because it's so good. It's aged super well as a movie. Like, I just don't. I think that, like, Scorsese, he just knows when he makes a film, he knows how to capture the interest of the viewer. I don't know, maybe it's the way it's just the way he directs specifically, but all his movies I find very captivating. Maybe that's an exaggeration. I haven't seen all of them, but like, he's not afraid to stray away from very harsh topics. Do you know what I mean?
No, I agree. Yes.
And Taxi Drive, as you said, if you can read the description here, there is stuff about an underage prostitute, which might not be for everyone. If stuff like that's a bit too much for you, that's fine. But Taxi Driver, to me, it's one of my favourite movies. It's one of Scorsese's best. I'd still put Goodfellas above it, but I think Taxi Driver is my second favourite Scorsese film ever.
Sure, big words, but fine.
Yeah. I mean, he has a lot of good ones, you know. As I say, I know me and you both think he's a bit snobby, but
Hey,
I guess it's
he's not
for
a bit
reason.
snobby.
Okay,
but
I guess.
Here's the thing: you can be a good director and not be a dick. You don't have to be both.
To be fair though, in Hollywood, like it's hard. That's like all the good ones are proper assholes.
But in his defense, he does seem to be a director who will hold his own and will defend the decisions he makes against corporate execs, which some directors won't.
I feel like that's why The Irishman came to Netflix, because I doubt a film like that could have really done well in cinema. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we're living in a day and age where, as much stuff, as much as negativity that people give Netflix, we're living in a day and age where studios bring someone in not to direct, but just to oversee the film that they want to make. And Netflix does seem like, for better or for worse, the place to go if you actually just want to make a film and get money. Yeah, that's it. Because I mean, as bad as some of the Netflix originals are, and as some questionable quality some of them are, at least the people who worked on it have been like, at least I got to do what I wanted to do, which you've got to give points for that, right?
No, of course. And I'll say this, that I'll agree that Scorsese really does stand by his vision, and I feel like directors like that are fading away fast. I think eventually, once all those directors are dead, we're just gonna we're just gonna have people. I'd say all the movies are just controlled by tons of businessmen that know nothing about film.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not on Netflix, as you said, because Netflix does us more creative freedom, but definitely in Hollywood, 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
If the 2010s as a decade was anything to go by.
Yep.
No, but yeah. Watch Taxi Driver.
Watch Taxi Driver. Next, The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Haven't seen it, but that is an incredibly recent entry. I mean, have you seen it? I haven't seen it.
I have seen The Grand Budapest Hotel. And actually, I do understand, why so many people love this film. And I would say it's a good film too. I think it has a really unique style as well. I don't think any film looks like this film. It has a really good sense of humour too. It's a decent story as well. Best 100 films of all time? I don't know. I don't possibly think it could be. It's not that good. It's got a lot of talent behind it, but it's one of those ones where it feels too silly, if that makes sense.
That's Wes Anderson, right?
Yeah, yes, Wes Anderson.
Okay, I haven't seen a lot of his movies, so except Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I hated.
Well, it's it's in a similar style, I guess, directing wise to that, in terms of how the shots are composed and stuff.
Maybe it's not for me then.
Maybe it's not for you, but I also like the use of model shots as well. A lot of it is models, which is really, and they look really good. Ooh, but again, if I don't know, there is a villain, I guess, but they feel very James Bond-esque, and it kind of contrasts a bit with the film. I don't know. Yeah. It's a silly film, but it's good, and I enjoyed it. But I don't think it deserves to be on the top 100 films of all time. Is it similar to the fact that Titanic didn't need a villain because the iceberg in itself? Is the iceberg was the villain. The villain in this film is the hotel's going to close. That's the villain, and yet suddenly here comes basically Jaws from the James Bond films, played by Willem Dafoe. That's not even a joke either. Casting, I mean, if you wanted to convince people that the villain wasn't cartoony, casting Willem Dafoe wasn't the person you'd do for that. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I'd say definitely it's a film that I enjoyed and I would recommend, but it's definitely not top 100 worthy. I apologise. No, I can respect that. And finally, our 50th film is Fargo, the 96 version. Well, I hate to end on such a negative note, but I have not seen it. Oh. I got to say, me neither. Oh, it's done by the Coen brothers. I did not know that. Yes, it's the Coen.
That's Coen Brothers. They ended up doing No Country for Old Men, right?
Exactly, yes.
Good
See,
movie.
Fargo is one of those things where I think all the adaptations of it have been well received in some regard.
Yeah, I know there's the TV show which a lot of people like.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that at the end of our first stint, we've done the first half, the first 50 out of 100 movies, and we've said yes to 25. We've said no to 12. We said maybe to 2, and we said not seen to 11.
Oh, that's a lot of not seen.
That is quite a bit of not seen, but actually it's not as bad as I thought. Not nowhere near as bad as I thought. Obviously, 100 films, there are going to be some gaps in that, but to have seen and commented on most of them is pretty good, actually. All things considered.
The yes to half of them actually is shockingly low. Like,
True.
I expected like at least 30 to go through.
Yeah.
I thought we said yes to a lot, but like only half. That's crazy.
Only half. Yep, only half.
I mean, I guess that ends the first part of this mega video. We thought it'd be short, but it's ended up going on a while.
So there you are. That's the first 50, the first half of this list, and it's been pretty good so far. I think we can both agree that actually there's been some cracking films on there. But there's been a lot that we didn't like or we haven't got around to seeing. This second half of the list I think is going to get quite interesting. There's a lot of stuff that I was genuinely surprised would be put on there, and this is where we start to come into stuff that I think is just crowd pleasing. All I'm going to say is you will be seeing one man made of iron at one point.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
Well, that's scary, dude.
Yeah, so tune in next time for films 51 to 100, Part 2.